1, 0, go.
Hello, welcome to Plat Chat episode 90, presented, of course, by T-Mobile. I'm here with the regular crew of degenerates, and Matt was just telling us about he's been watching YouTube videos of people eating sofa cushions. What are you talking about, you crazy bearded man?
It was a show called My Strange Addiction, and it was all about the weird stuff people were addicted to. And evidently, there are just tons of people who are eating weird shit they're not supposed to be. I saw somebody who they ate cigarette butts, which is horrible. They were eating glass. This guy was just munching light bulbs like they were fucking burgers. Yeah, like they were just like lollipops. I mean, come on now.
How are these people not having huge health problems?
So this is the best part. So like any like stupid reality show, they have to like try and like get them away from eating glass. And like they would go to a doctor and he'd be like, "This is dangerous. You could really hurt yourself." It's like, who the didn't know that's dangerous? There's a reason we don't eat glass, because it's dangerous. Come on now.
It also has no nutritional benefit.
That's the only reason. Yeah, I don't think that's the only reason we don't eat glass, but it is a big part of it.
It also has no nutritional value. That's a good point. Yeah, there's nothing you could benefit.
I have no idea how Matt's going to tie this back to being connected by T-Mobile.
Well, that's not my problem. That's Josh's problem. He's the one who has to reel us back in.
No, this didn't have any link whatsoever. I just really wanted to know about weird people. I feel like that's how Matt lives his life. He wants to know about people weirder than himself in order to justify his own existence.
I'm not fucking weird.
You're weird by virtue of seeking out this weirdness.
No.
I think a lot of people watch these shows, honestly.
Yeah, a lot of people
They're
watch
very popular.
Really? They're very popular.
They're very popular. Yeah, they're for sure. It's like all the train wrecks.
Is Johnny
like,
there? Did he freeze? I don't know.
They
if
love
Johnny's
watching train wrecks. Like that's why they watch Plat Chat, because they love watching train wrecks.
Right.
So
you know what? I actually, this is actually funny because this is exactly what we're doing. I was like, man, it takes us a while to start talking about Overwatch. You talk about like aliens and like all this other stuff at the beginning. And then I was like, man, maybe we should keep it more on topic. But then I just started the entire episode just talking about people who eat sofa cushions and light bulbs, which has nothing to do with Overwatch.
That's also the level of focus that you can expect from any member of Plat Chat. To come into this with a real idea of, we should start on track, and immediately you are the cause of the problem of diverting the train off the tracks. I don't trust you, Matthew Morello.
It's usually Johnny.
It is.
I don't talk in the intros. I'm just quiet.
Yeah, that's a problem. We're going to work on that over time. But hey,
okay. Thank you, Mrs. Yeah.
Well, T-Mobile, huh?
Educate me in the social skills, please, sir.
Yep. Good intro, What about him? What about him, Josh?
Josh, you nailed this.
You all ever heard of those T-Mobiles? You all ever heard of them? I mean, I gave up. It was just nonsense. I did try and preempt it with, I don't trust Matt to loop it into T-Mobile's the one to trust, but I'm not even going to try and go there. We've lost control of the reins very early on. But I will tell you this. T-Mobile, they want to be the best in the world at connecting people to their world, to your world. And with so much of our lives these days happening through a wireless connection, nothing but the best will do. We rely on wireless to do almost everything in life, from big deals to everyday connections. So if you can't rely on your network, it can have big consequences.
It's true.
I love T-Mobile. T-Mobile's the best, honestly.
That's why you can't just trust this stuff to anyone. T-Mobile is the largest and fastest 5G network in America. With coverage and speed like this, why wouldn't you go with the best around? That's my question. Why wouldn't you go with the best around?
It doesn't make any sense not to go with T-Mobile.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a rhetorical question. Thank you, Matt. You are the best at rhetorical questions because you never answer questions anyway. Mitch will throw you up a question. Waited. You'll just start doing play-by-play instead. Good question, Mitch. Look at the diva.
Well, I only answer the good questions. He'll ask me a question and I'm like, are you watching the fight? Like, it's not over. Look at this other team. They're coming back. Come on now. And then somebody tweeted me these people on Twitter. Some of y'all are nice. Some of you are idiots. Somebody tweeted me when Mitch did the whole Reaper copy pasta after I sarcastically said like, oh, what the hell was that? And somebody tweeted me and they were like, oh, you shouldn't question your co-caster like that. It makes you look pretty douchey that you didn't don't throw him under the bus so you don't know what it is. I was like,
I love that as well because it was Matt that started all of this.
Yes, I was the one who mentioned it on the show the first time.
Out
no,
there, they talk trash.
they just
to
don't
Esports
understand the
awards.
dynamic.
Color commentator Matt, Mr.X Morello.
Yeah, he knows best.
Award winning.
I don't even need the award. I'm waiting for the lifetime award.
Wait, have you won an award?
Huh? No,
Did he?
I was nominated.
Oh,
I was
right.
nominated.
Okay.
Okay, sorry,
All right. Nominated for many
You won
awards.
in my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, nah. I
Talking
didn't
of
win.
talking about
I
mad
also-
people on Twitter.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you guys had the same response, but the power rankings thing that we did last episode, when we were halfway through the June Joust,
Yeah.
it got posted to Reddit, and I assume that this is the reason that my Twitter mentions blew up, because normally if we do stuff on an episode, people aren't tweeting at me left, right, and center. They just post a comment in the YouTube video. But I had multiple, like 3-4 different Houston fans getting really angry at me in my mentions. Oh, not angry, but like they were mocking at how low we had put them. They were like, 5th in NA when they're 7-1. You clowns don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that killed
You
me.
need to post the power rankings to Twitter, because that's what I do at the end of every week. I just put the power rankings for that week at the end of Twitter, and that's when you get the people going. Then they're fighting in the comments. You get to look like a little Roman emperor, putting your thumb up and down, watching them as they fight. And like, that's how you actually, like, I've had comment chains on mine that are like 30 comments long of people arguing. So pissed over the rankings. And like, that's how you gotta do. That's what you gotta do. People, you would have gotten such insane engagement if you put Kurt, that's a free suggestion. Just put the power rankings on Twitter.
The best part is when they have that like 10 reply convo, and then like 2 months later, the other guy shows up to prove him wrong. It's like, yeah, I told you so, dude. It's like fucking 2 months after the stage is completed, and it's like everything's settled, no one cares.
Yeah, I
It's like,
knew they would do it, bro.
I knew New York would be sick with Jonak, and Scrimbucks came in late. I was right.
I mean,
I've always been a fan of Flora, bro.
Talking about Scrimbucks, man, people are genuinely trying to cash in their pre-season Scrimbucks on New York and Atlanta. It's a different stage, and people are like, the Scrimbucks were right after all.
I did such a good job before the season. I predicted the hero pools. I predicted the hero pools meta. All as planned. My pre-season Scrimbucks. I knew Senjata would get banned. I knew we'd be here with double shield. Oh, I'm so smart. Like, come on, dude. Sorry.
What are you saying, Matt?
No, we're 3 or 4 patches since then.
Yes, there've been significant changes since then.
And we can't let Johnny ever take credit for that, because he also said in an episode for 30 minutes that the Shock should bench Violet for Twilight.
No, I did not say strictly that they should do that. I suggested it in practice.
Okay, well, I mean, maybe that would have helped them this week. I don't think
they
so.
They lost, so maybe. I mean, maybe he's right.
Yeah, FD1 and Twilight would have done so much better. Violet is the problem.
Let's start there.
Moira.
I want to start with the Atlanta Reign here, because they qualified for the June Joust playoffs, and I have been seeing. I mean, I think it was like 2-3 episodes ago, I gave the Bren's Player of the Week to Unter. I am still hardcore on this train that this has made a difference within the Atlanta Reign's kind of practice environment. Because, I mean, for anyone who's forgotten as well, Massa had that interview where he said that they had changed up how they were approaching practice. They were doing a lot more VOD review and that kind of stuff instead of just grinding practice constantly. I feel like this team is not just Seoul Dynasty, where they're sometimes good and they're sometimes bad. It does feel like logical forward progression with Atlanta. It feels like they are improving over time.
Yes. It actually almost even started a little. Well, you remember the beginning of the season, they were kind of rotating around the DPS a little bit, but now that we haven't seen Edison in probably
Edison
since
played this
weekend. He played one map against the Shock. He played
one map
because he was just playing Reaper.
But mostly they've just been playing Kai.
Yeah.
The entire time on the Ash and the hit scan. Yeah, you see Edison in here, but
that's it. That's the only map he really played. So,
but yeah, like they've been on a roll, and even with this comp, like you would expect them not to be great at it. Like I think their best look is when they have like Gator on the Orisa and then Hawk on the Diva. That's when they really look like they're strongest. But even in this, they looked good. Like
yeah, I mean,
yeah, they did.
2 weeks ago, people were like, yeah, I don't ever want to see Gator and Hawk play Winston Diva. And like, here they are playing this comp and beating the Shock with it. And it's like, it's a big change. I don't think anyone anticipated that big of a change in teamwork, philosophy, everything that goes with it. So yeah, obviously very impressed by Atlanta Reign. We should honestly have Unter on the show at some point, or like do a separate show with Unter.
Any team that is,
by the way, this might just be my crazed conspiracy theory. It might just have nothing to do with him whatsoever.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. What are you doing, mate? Let's get the answer.
Josh has got his fucking tinfoil hat on. He's waiting for the UFO documents to leak about Unter.
Well, I mean, considering that their roster is essentially the same with Pelican, there's 2 new DPS, right? Their core is still the exact same players. There's not necessarily a lot that's changed with this team, right? It's just the DPS.
It's a full season with Iris, right? Didn't they add him late?
Yep.
Yeah, they did. I feel like
they did add him late, but he was playing over Dogman like full time. Yeah, even with like 300 ping. So so I wouldn't really say the team has drastically changed player wise either. So I mean, also he's on low ping now, as compared to high ping, and he's looked a lot better.
He's looked really good. Yeah, I think Iris has made a huge difference for this team, though. If you compare them back to like 1 year ago when they were playing with a very similar roster, but then with Dogman involved and slightly different DPS line, this team did look very, very different. The addition of Iris has made a big change for this team.
Yeah, I will say though, like we're praising every part of the team right now. So I mean, it's equally important to just say that a large part of why Atlanta's been so good recently, and especially this stage, is just like the DPS diff as well. So like we praise the tanks, we praise the support, but like Pelican's performance on Echo, Kai being a complete, difference maker on hit scan as well. Like every part of this team is just like popping off and making a big difference. So you gotta compliment and praise every part of it. Coaching, players, like every role seems to be doing well for them.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you have a team, I would love to know. I was when I was watching the game and after it, I was like, when was the last time we saw the Shock get like 3-0'd like that?
They got 3-0'd by a team really recently. Who was it by? They got 3-0 by someone real recently.
Dallas?
Yes,
it
was by Dallas
tournament?
in the May Melee qualifiers, of course. In the May Melee knockouts.
Yeah. No, knockouts.
In the knockouts, yeah. Sorry.
I wonder if they've been over the previous 2 seasons, their championship years. I wonder how many times they've been 3-0'd in the series.
I mean, you can look through their Overwatch.gg page, and when I was going through the results, and there's not very many.
Yeah, I mean, there was one time against the Philadelphia Fusion there in week 28. There was very, very few times. They just don't.
They may have gotten 3-0'd more this season than they have had in the last 2 seasons combined.
Yes, they have.
I mean, yeah, that's probably a very fair take. So,
yeah, that is ridiculous, isn't it?
That's insane.
Yeah, but I think that there was I was having this debate with my chat earlier because I was talking to them about I was running through the bracket, I was reviewing the APAC VODs with them just now before we started this episode. And there's a large section of the community that believes that Shock just literally shit the bed in that game. That they performed significantly worse in their match against Atlanta than they did against Washington or against the Dallas Fuel earlier on in the stage as well. What do you guys think about that? Like, what is the quality of the Shock right now? And did it get worse in the game against Atlanta, or do you have to give credit to Atlanta Reign for beating them?
I think you have to give credit to Atlanta for beating them. I also think, though, you have to acknowledge that when you have a team like the Shock, who's been as good as they've been over the last 2 seasons, a lot needs to go right. And like, you need a lot of heroic moments at the right time. And like, you're not going to have that all the time. They easily could have lost, some last year or the year before, right? Depending on how a meta goes or this and that. Like, they've had incredible players who have bailed them out in certain situations that are very difficult. You can't rely on that every game against these top teams. So, like, do I still think they're as good? I think this is definitely a championship team, but I think you see, like, they're not. You need those big moments and things to happen. They're not coming up as big as they have in the past. I think that's probably, at least for me, the only big difference so far.
That matchup specifically, I said this in your chat too, but it's hard to get the message across in Twitch chat. But I think San Francisco Shock, I think they performed better in the other matches against Dallas and against Washington Justice because they played mirror compositions against those teams. And so the emphasis is pretty evenly distributed between your tank supports. Like if your tanks and supports can outplay the other tanks and supports in the mirror Lucio Mora composition, I mean, you're just gonna win that, right? Like if Smurf plays better than Mag or Fearless, if Violet and FD God has like nice sound barriers or coalescence, that's gonna make a big difference. I think in the matchup against the Atlanta Reign, it's just my 5 cents. I think those slower compositions, they facilitate damage players and grant them more impact in the match and how it plays out. And so I think the DPS diff, I think Pelican was straight up like better than Nero. And Kai as well, like Glister, in my opinion, like he's not going to take down Kai as it stands. Like, yes, he has some great moments against Dallas. Dallas didn't have a hit scan player at the time. So I think that because it puts so much pressure on Nero, Glister, and Striker to perform, and Atlanta Reign just had Pelican and Kai popping off. Like, there's only so much Smurf and Violet and FT God. I mean, FT God entered a little bit, but like, there's only so much they can do in those slower compositions because they put emphasis on a different area in your team. So those are just my 5 cents. I mean, it might be bullshit, but that's kind of how I approach that.
Your 5 cents, isn't it? My 2 cents.
Yeah, but he's got 5.
Cents.
Yeah,
this is my 2 cents.
You've added a lot of extra cents to that.
Yeah,
but you know what? I respect you have a big opinion.
Oh my god, I've used this. No. I don't
remember my 5 cents. I'm not. Is inflation? Is it inflation? Is that what's happening?
It's inflation.
It must be some inflation here.
He's giving it to you in Dogecoin.
I think. Or I'm just like that much smarter, so I have 5 instead of 2.
Yeah, he's 2.5 times.
No, I think you're just fucking up something pretty easy.
That's very possible too.
This the other day.
Well, I think everyone just respects your opinion so much. We're like, he's got a lot of money in the game.
He's got a lot of sense, that man.
We have to mind all those sense. I do think for Shock and for the Reign specifically, the Reign right now, Pelican looks like the best Echo currently.
Yeah, I think so.
Him and Leave.
Just legitimately. Leave has also been really, really good. But I think the difference I see between Pelican and Leave is that Pelican also has he legitimately looks like the best off tank in the servers as well sometimes when he's played, which is why it's so impressive to me, because Pelican legitimately understands their win condition like so well here, because this comp, even though people have said like, oh, it's not goats, but it's like it functions the same in that like you get a cooldown out and you kill somebody once the cooldown's gone. And Pelican really understands once he gets the dupe out, what player am I going to look for to force out more cooldowns, and so we can isolate them. Which is, I think, the arguably most important part of this comp on like a micro level and a macro level, because like they're one and the same really. And that, so I feel like for Reign, when you look at them, it's like this team is just currently has the player that probably understands their best in the most impactful role currently in the meta. But also, Shock did look uncharacteristically bad. Like I've never seen the Shock support line be so invisible ever. Like ever. Like FD God, sure, he's had some like man moments at times. That's fine. Like he's not Moth, right? But he still performed very well. He's had great moments. His positioning has never been nearly as good as Moss, I would say overall. But his positioning was extra bad this particular time. And on top of that, Violet was having some like old Violet mistakes. Like Violet mistakes you'd see every once in a while where he would get caught out and he would be in position, especially on like when they were playing like him just realistically on the Moira here in this particular round, he would just get assassinated by Edison, honestly. He died in Cole like twice, like mid-Cole as soon as he popped it.
Yeah.
Because he would just be in a position where and honestly, that's not necessarily only his fault, right? Like maybe Choi should have been keeping an eye on those players. Like maybe FT got it, particularly on the Reaper. It's on the Lucio's job a lot to peel the Reaper away from your backline to get the boop. So there's a lot of interlocking pieces here. But to me, I've never seen the Shock support line look so flat.
I think for me, though, Jonathan's point was that a lot of the match ended up coming down to the slower base compositions. But also, Shock did get flattened in this first map. This wasn't even close. Yep. It wasn't. Like, Atlanta were firmly in control the entire time. They 100-0'd the first one, and this is about the only team fight that the Shock ended up winning. I guess they win, like, the initial one and early one to be able to get up to 55%.
Oh, no.
But Atlanta are very... oh, my God. Would you fix your camera,
How does this keep
please?
happening?
They're just flopping around. Give us a smooch again.
This camera is, like, super expensive, too. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my God.
He's so big.
He's
the
autofocus
smaller. Is so good, though.
You've also gotten smaller now.
Yeah, I'm gonna fix it.
You're so far away.
Give your point, Josh.
My point is that even though it was only one map, I thought that Atlanta also looked exceptionally good in this mirror. They kind of dominated the Shock.
Yeah,
and
surprisingly good.
The Shock have been able to beat all, like, the crucial element to the Shock winning against Dallas and winning against Washington was not just that they were able to win on some escort or hybrid maps. Yes, they did fantastically on Rialto against Washington, and they did fantastically on Dorado against Dallas. But the actual bread and butter of why they won was because they were able to win control maps and take those away when they were playing the mirror. They were able to actually win in the mirror against those other teams. And I don't think that I don't know. I don't think that it's possible for a team to just get annihilated. You can't rate the Shock highly enough to be able to beat Dallas and Justice, but then not rate Atlanta for being able to beat them. I don't think think that Shock was terrible in that opening map. I think that when I was watching it, I was seeing Atlanta being way more active, playing at a really high tempo, and Edison also just pounding. Sorry, not Edison, sorry. Pelican pounding.
Yeah.
Although Edison
did pound too. Edison also had incredible moments.
Sure, but the player in my head is like Pelican was just so much impact. And in those kind of comps, it's very hard to shut down the Echo unless your other Echo is going to try and mark them in the skies. But, I mean, people don't normally play like that when you're playing the rush comps. It's these slower-based comps where you have more time to try and shut Pelican down a little bit. The Shock also completely failed doing that.
Is it weird to say... I mean, this is probably going to be like a Johnny, they should try it, Twilight FT God type of comment. But
here we go.
I'd like to see them play Glister more over Striker in certain scenarios, even like this. I think that they're going to need Glister in a big way over the course of the season, and I don't think he's so new to this roster, and I think the spotlight on the new players like him and Nero and FD God is so bright that I think you definitely run the risk of, like, later in the season needing him to come in and play Ashe in a big situation, like the spotlight just being so massive to where, like, Striker, we know he can come in and pop off on the Tracer and other heroes. Like, I feel like they need to give Glister some more run. I feel
like
having
play
him
time to get comfortable.
Yeah, and I think how big of a difference could the Reaper diff be between Glister and Striker? Like, I can't, at least for me, I can't, believe it's like hugely different. But yeah, like, how is he going to be a huge part of this roster where we've always seen some type of, like, throughout each season, some type of, like, hit scan that crop up and, be incredibly important? If he's only playing in scrims and then, the off escort map every once in a while, I think they need to try and make him a bigger part of this team. At least that's my opinion right now.
I can see the justification for that. I think it does hurt them a little. I think all teams, though, are just focused on the short term. When you only have 16 games, regular season games in the season, you need to get the wins whenever you possibly can.
Think about...
Very hard for teams to justify running somebody they think is going to be a little worse in the short term. If you lose matches in the short term, you won't even get to the big.
But they almost
games.
did that with Ons last year. Remember, Ons didn't look great at the beginning of the year. Like, there were times where they played him. He was even playing like some Tracer. Like, he wasn't like the Ons we remember, second half of the year, end of the year, right away. He kind of developed into that.
Yeah, but he was also cracked out of control even at the beginning. In the first meta, I remember him taking some game time away from Striker and playing McCree, and we were like, "Holy fuck, this guy's good!"
Right, but he wasn't like playing.
He wasn't playing all the time.
We didn't see that for whole matches to where towards the end of the year. I mean, think about how many times he bailed them out in situations where, like, he would just like jump up on the high ground and just dome 3 people and like that just turn a fight. Like, they need to find that with one of their DPS in a meta where Striker can't play Tracer. I think they missed that.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like that's assuming that the thing is, we haven't really seen how much hit scan have we even seen from Striker so far this year, like in this particular stage so far, right? Like, it seems like they were still confused about what they exactly wanted to play as well. And I think Striker has proven that Striker's hit scan is good, like very good, can compete at the top level. And so if they're finding more success with Striker with the Reaper, which is more consistently the meta comp, then I don't know. I don't know if Glister, like, and don't get me wrong, I feel like Glister offers a very unique opportunity for the Shock, and that he is far more flexible than Striker. And we know that his hit scan is very good. And we haven't seen a lot of play time from him. But I don't know. I'm just when you see these clips too, when you're watching Shock play, like to me, the more I watch it, the less I think this is like a Glister Striker issue. The more I'm like, Shock don't know how to properly set up Nero at all. Compared to Pelican, when you watch how Rain play, Pelican, the support Pelican receives and also the setups they give Pelican allows him to just do so much more in all of these fights. In addition, because I feel like FD God, everyone praised FD God as like, okay, this is a very aggressive player. He gets a lot of plays done, but in return, he's kind of a feast or famine support sometimes when he plays against very top level teams. When we value, it's the reason why Moth was so highly valued in the offseason and part of Shock's success, because Moth is the most balanced support player in the league. Still, he is the most balanced in terms of how he can handle his aggression and his defensive play. Like, obviously, he's been taking sort of a back roll that skewed a bit on the Brigitte because Skewed's Brigitte is amazing. But I still think Shock is missing the ability to have someone that's able to tune the tempo for them to be like, okay, we're playing, like I'm playing a little bit more defensively and enabling my back line. Okay, now I'm playing aggressively and I'm enabling my front line, right? And I don't think FD God has found that tune yet, like where they want to set it up. And Nero just seems like he's never in the position to get nearly as much value as Pelican in all of these fights. And also Pelican, like we saw it in the earlier two, I think Pelican just understands what he needs to do better on his dupes than Nero does consistently.
I think it's a bit of a Pelican diff. I mean, in these compositions, the non-mirror match we're watching right now, obviously Pelican has access to the Mercy, which is a massive advantage for him. Overall,
he does, yeah, for sure.
Is a big difference for them. But also, Pelican just understands when to take flank timings wonderfully. Whereas I feel like Nero is still trying to get to grips with that. Like in this engagement as well, just no value found from the duplicate. Supercharger put in a weird position. They haven't gained any space off the back of it. It is sloppy, but I don't think that was any better during the Dallas or Washington games, honestly. I think that he just hasn't been at the same. It's more so to say that Pelican is on another level compared to most of the other Echoes that are in the league.
And Rain know how to play around him extremely well and set him up for success. Well, I think Shock currently don't know how to set up their Echo for nearly as much success.
The other thing as well is I think Atlanta, especially Hawk, does a phenomenal job at being able to shut down win conditions for the Shock's composition. I'm just watching a lot of Hawk in these fights, and he's trying to boop the Winston and harass Smurf so that he can't gain any space. Whenever Striker teleports, he's on him with a defense matrix. And so these normal plays that you would go for, where if Nero takes a bit of damage, he's straight at him to try and finish him off. The normal plays that Shock would go for are all getting shut down by Atlanta because they're preempting them. They're realizing what's going to happen, and they've already got a plan in place to be able to deal with it. That was what was really impressive to me when I was watching this game. So I felt like a lot of the Shock flaws were forced errors. It wasn't just Shock fumbling their shit all over the place. It was that Atlanta were recognizing what they were trying to do and shutting them down early. I think a big part as well of why people thought that Shock had stumbled and slipped on the banana was because Pelican was so open, especially on Hollywood, where the guy was just actually flying around doing whatever the fuck he wanted because they were so focused on taking Kai out of the fights. And they felt like if they didn't go aggressive onto Kai, they would just lose, I guess. So Pelican could just fly around and do whatever the fuck he liked.
How do we judge the Shock moving forward? Like, are we judging them off of what we've seen exclusively this season? Obviously, the two-time champions, but like, they don't seem to kind of have that, like, I guess, like almost like air of, like, even last year when they would not win, you still kind of felt like they were always going to win in the end.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have that kind of like air of invincibility, I feel like, anymore. And I think
it comes out in moments, it's not consistent, but like sometimes I get that anyway.
But I think though, like the more times they lose to in fashions like this and to teams like Atlanta and Dallas, it just gives all the other teams at the top of NA and APAC even more confidence against them.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah, there's some kind of mental battle that they had last year too, where when you knew you were going up against the Shock, you knew you were the underdogs every single time. Now it doesn't feel like it. A team like Atlanta could go against the Shock, and you might say that they're. I mean, most people wouldn't have said they're favored in this match, but coming out of it, if they were to have a rematch, you'd be like, okay, this is a winnable game. Anytime the Dallas Fuel play against them, you're like, okay, this is a winnable game for Dallas.
They 3-0 them. It's not like when we see the Shock lose in the past, it's these like epic like 7-game series. It goes all the way down to the wire. And these teams are just coming in, just beating them and just bouncing like nothing ever happened. I mean, I think that's how you have to. That's what other teams are going to look at and say like, hey, these teams are just below. This series is really just kind of like a blowout, right? Like they're getting blown out by teams which we haven't seen in years. And it's going to give more confidence to the rest of the league.
That's what I think it was Yiska that tweeted the statement that has inspired this lower third is the San Francisco Shock's era over, because you don't have to what's the best way of putting this? An era is normally defined by dominance, and I don't think the Shock, even though they've been a top team, they've certainly not been dominant in the same way that they were in 2019 or 2020. They had periods where it might have gone down a little bit, but this is now 2 stages where the Shock have not made the finals, not made the stage finals. I'm not talking grand finals at the stage. They just haven't even made it past the knockouts.
Do you think this team wins the stage during the year?
They're unlikely.
It's too early for me. So like, my answer to this era question is, it's like, I feel like they have one more chance. Like, I feel like if they go on to play really well, they're one of the top 2 teams who make it to the knockouts in the Summer Showdown, and then top 2 going into the Countdown Cup, and then they qualify for the playoffs. I feel like in hindsight, we'll still be able to say that like there's somewhat, even though they're not as strong as in 2019, 2020, there's still like a resemblance of the San Francisco Shock being who they are. I feel like they have one more chance before I'm officially willing to like call it like, yeah, this is not the same Shock. This is very different. The era is over. Like they're just another good elite team now. I don't know. Maybe I'm putting too much respect on the San Francisco Shock as a franchise. I feel, especially with what we've seen with this roster, it feels like they're so close to making everything click though. Like a few things, a few micro things are like going wrong every matchup, some team synergy, some confidence, like players not peaking or playing as confidently as Ans did, as Rascal did. FD got inting a few times. I feel like they're so close, though, to being this top team and living up to their potential.
Really?
I'm not willing to just discard.
You just said they were close and then listed off like 15 different things that they need to fix.
Yeah, but it's still minor adjustments, It's not like they
it's
don't
not
need
like
to
this
make
team is bad.
No,
right?
no,
We're not talking
no,
about a team that's fallen from grace. We're just talking about a team that's no longer 3-0ing everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is what it takes to have
stage.
an era at this point in time. Like, the thing with your argument, Jonathan, is that they would have to go deep in every stage final and win the league from here on out to still have that era. Even if they went deep in every stage final and then came second at the end of the year, I don't think that you would call that a continuation of the Shock era. I think that would still be like, they have to actually be the best team in the league from here on out to continue, with the benefit of hindsight, their era.
I mean, it's subjective, right? It's subjective, and I think you just disagree with your subjectiveness, which is fine. I just think that like if they end up getting like second, as you say, which is still very respectable if you get second in the Overwatch League. Yeah. I still feel like you can look at the first 2 stages as a bit of a hiccup. They made a lot of player changes going into the season, lost a lot of key players. So
lost a lot of coaching staff as well.
Coaching staff,
over the last 2 years.
Lost
right, but these are
the coaching staff argument fell apart a little bit this week since both Junkbuck and 9K lost.
Yeah.
So.
And Harakne is no longer part of the chart, right?
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. I think though that the other teams have just gotten way better. The quality in the league is way, way higher. And it's not just a couple of teams, it's a bunch of teams. Shanghai is still as good as they were. Dallas has become incredible. And other teams like the Gladiators and the Atlanta Reign are breathing down everybody's neck. And then Washington as well, actually, looked really good. They rebounded fantastically from their poor performance in week 1, and they took Shock to a 5-map series. What do you guys think it would take for if you looked back at the end of the season and you said this was still Shock's year, what would it take for them? What would they have to do for the rest of the year for you to say that?
Shocks you. That's difficult, man.
I think for me,
If they win the grand finals, that's my
they would need to.
criteria.
That's your only
Yeah, they would need
criteria,
to-
though. Because if they just planked all of
Yep.
the stage finals, but they win at the end, kind of like how London did in the first season, or Seoul almost did, like, would that, to you, continue the Shock legacy? Because I wouldn't.
They'd be the 3-time champ. Like, well, okay, so
Well, yeah,
for me, they would need
it'd
to.
be the three-peat. That's really hard to
They would-
argue.
they
I
would
mean,
get
if
a
you win 3
three-peat.
times in a row, how are you going to argue that it's still not the Shock era, right?
It would still be, but they wouldn't. It wouldn't just have the same feel, right? Where I think if they were not to, for me, like, I'd at least want to see them to make it to Hawaii the next 2 tournaments, right? I think that's a realistic kind of, like, not even win, just make it, right? I think that's a
Right.
realistic expectation. They can still finish like number 1 pretty much in NA, or at least in the top 3. You'd want to see that. And then obviously win at the end. But to win, a lot of shit needs to go right. The meta's got to break the right way. You got to have a good grasp of it. Like, it's not completely guaranteed, right? Look at Seoul Dynasty last year. They just like capished around the whole year, and then all of a sudden Gesture just rolls out on the Roadhog at the end, and it just all clicks and works. London season 1, they had to send a bunch of people home just to make it work.
Yeah.
It's not as easy, right? Even some of the stuff that the Shock dealt with last year, like, Genji remains as good as he was. Like, what would they have done, right? They didn't really have anybody who could pick up that role. Like, they picked up Tayo, but we've seen him like 3 times since they've acquired him. They could have been possibly in more trouble last year. It's just a lot on how these things shake out. Like right now, like if you were to say like Echo is extremely prominent at the end of the year and like a huge part of it, like you'd be a little bit worried. Like if you're the Shock, like if it's some kind of like Tracer with like Ash type of thing, like we saw a decent amount last year, like okay, now you feel a little bit better, right? You can play Striker on the Tracer, Glister on like Ash, like you feel good about it. I think it's gonna take more than them being really good to get back to that level. They're going to have a lot of other things break right. They're going to have some teams underperform who are playing great right now. They're going to have to integrate some players that they haven't really found a great way to use yet or haven't gotten comfortable. And then they're going to have a meta shakeout in one of these like last 3 moments of the year where they're the best at, which is tough.
Can I offer some copium?
Yeah,
sure. Sure, let's hear it.
If we consider the losses, oh yes, the copium. I need it. If you consider the losses, they struggled against the Atlanta Reign in the main melee. Okay, I feel like they're a bit of the arch nemesis. Okay, they lose to the Atlanta Reign in the June Joust qualifiers, and then they lost to the Dallas Fuel in the knockout matches as well. Who just came out with like this fucking monster performance. Like Dallas Fuel is like the best Overwatch League team, and they just got stomped because Dallas Fuel surprised them, came out with a super fast composition, just like rolled over them with the Symmetra. Really, like there's no other team that like stands in the way of that. That's just Dallas Fuel, yeah. And then, as I said, they struggled against the Atlanta Reign in the qualifier match the day before. But I feel like the Atlanta Reign is like the nemesis franchise of the Atlanta Reign. And if they just figure out
the Atlanta Reign is the nemesis of the Atlanta Reign. It's Dallas versus the Fuel.
Historically, that is true. Historically, that is also correct.
That's accurate.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm losing it. I feel like if Shock gets better and beats Atlanta at these slower compositions, like the Double Shield, or the rush compositions that they struggle in on the main melee, I feel like San Francisco Shock, they still beat the Dallas Fuel. They still beat the Washington Justice in these faster Winston compositions. So they've clearly figured out that part of their game. Like they understand how to play those Winston compositions at an extremely high level. And they beat the best teams in the league. Like Washington Justice, their best compositions are Winston too. Like they got Mag, Fury, and Decay. That's no small feat. And you beat the Dallas Fuel, the main melee champions. Obviously, there's something good to take away from that. the only real matches they've struggled is that one Dallas Fuel match where they just got stomped, and then the 2 Atlanta Rain matches. So I feel like if they figure out these slower compositions, they'll consistently and reliably just be like such a good, well-rounded team. That's my copium for the Shock, though.
Okay.
Like, I feel like there's not a lot separating them from being a good team to being an elite team that can compete on every composition.
I've got some more copium as well for you. Because I feel like a lot of the way that we think about the league this year is based on the stage finals, but they don't actually reward that many extra league points, especially if it's different teams always making it. If it's the same teams making it over and over, then yeah, they're going to rack up unbelievable amount of points and get a crazy lead. But if it's different teams constantly making it, then just doing well in the regular season is going to be what makes you go deep in the playoffs, or at least have a high seed for the playoffs. And the Shock are still 7-1. Like, they've actually won all of the games against top-tier opponents in the regular season, apart from their game against the Houston Outlaws. They beat Dallas in the June Joust, and they beat the Washington Justice just recently as well, even when Washington looked better. So I feel like some of this is us overrating the importance of stage finals a little bit, because at the end of the day, they have still been getting the W's on the board in the regular season. I think they're second overall, aren't they? Behind Dallas?
No, they're third. Yeah, third overall.
Okay.
They're behind Shanghai, and they're behind Dallas.
Yeah, sorry.
The scariest part is, like, if Dallas were to win again, or Shanghai were to win, those teams boost themselves up in league points.
Yeah, but also, Matt, at the end of the day, getting to the playoffs in first seed compared to third seed is probably not going to make the difference of, like, whether or not you go deep. Because most of the time we have some, like, double elimination system. You're going to have to face off against some weaker teams anyway. I don't feel like the difference is monumental when you get to the end.
At least being in that top 3, though. Because the top 3 in NA are guaranteed to be in the playoffs.
Right.
The others have to play in, like, a play-in scenario. So right now, I mean, they have the same amount of points as the Outlaws, and they're only 1 up on the Gladiators and, like, 2 up on the Mayhem and the Justice. And then Atlanta, who's there, if Atlanta were to win, they would actually jump up and tie the Shock and the Justice. And the Outlaws, sorry. So, like, you're not completely out of the woods on that. Like, the worst thing for them is that they keep playing well in the regular season and never make a Hawaii, and let teams like Atlanta, the Justice, the Gladiators, who are right on their tail in terms of regular season performance, go and get points.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the best thing for the Shock, honestly, is if Dallas just wins again. And if Dallas keeps winning, because then at least they'll maybe come second.
Yeah.
Like, which it's actually better.
Very, very likely, I think, at this point for them, that Dallas is going to keep winning. I don't know. I personally, I'm not going to call the Shock over until they don't win the Overwatch League.
Okay.
That's it. That's my one condition. If you win a third year back-to-back, I simply don't give a shit if your regular season's still really good and you win again. I just don't care.
I hope they make it far in the overall playoffs, because I just do not want to hear the people who will talk about the previous 2 years and be like, well, see, the league, like, they're just weren't the best players in the league. They were all, contenders. Like, that's why they were winning. Like, they were just dominating people who weren't any good. Like,
who is making that argument?
There'll be idiots that do.
The argument is just going to be like, the teams need to shuffle a bit more and spread out some coaching.
There'll be people on Reddit who they will make any argument.
There are people that need couch cushions, Matt. We talked about that too, So I mean, I feel like at this point,
I just don't want the players to see that. I don't want to see that. Like, that would just be ridiculous.
All right, well, let's move on to talking about the Dallas Fuel. Avast just talked about them. They've got to be the odds-on favorites to win the June Joust as well, right? Is that agreed? Because I'll get to my bracket prediction later, but I still think they're odds-on favorites.
After the performance, Rain looking not terrible.
Yeah.
Rain not looking terrible.
Okay, but in terms of Dallas, do we think they've actually gotten better since they lost to the Shock? Because they believe they have. I think they have marginally. I don't think they've massively improved, but I think they seem to have added new ideas to their game in terms of how to beat the non-mirror compositions, like Sparkle's Doomfist coming out and the Genji, and they are making those instant swaps, and they know what a game plan. They're not just winging it, right? They're not just telling Sparkle, pick Doom and we'll fucking wing it and try and win. They have a clear plan in mind of how to mitigate their weaknesses in this meta.
Agreed.
I don't think they're substantially better, but I think they do look a little bit cleaner and like you mentioned, they do have some of those like swaps, and I think it's sometimes it's a little bit predictable on like if they're gonna change depending on if Sparkle or Doha's playing the Echo or not.
Yeah.
Because typically if they wanna move away from this, they'll have Sparkle play the Reaper because that's kind of what they sub out. But even then, like, what are you gonna do as the other team? You can't build around, Sparkle pulling out Genji and just running through you, or Doomfist and just like popping off. Like, uh, and for me, I think Fielder's just been tremendous as well. We talked a little bit about Iris now playing on the low ping. I think that has definitely helped out Fielder not playing through the middle of the night on the high ping.
Can you believe, by the way,
he looks like a different player.
People were trying to tell me that Fielder was not a top tier flex support coming into the league this year.
Win.
At the beginning of the season,
these people, they'll say
Who do you read?
No,
where are we getting this information
It was
from?
a very common theme coming into this season that people didn't rate Fielder on the same level. I assume because he'd only been able to play Ana as much last year when he was playing with Paris, and so they didn't rate him on the same level as people like Ziaki, Violet, Alarm, that kind of thing. I think this guy is as good. When it comes to the top level, especially when it comes to his Moira and his Ana, this guy's a freak. He's unnatural. He's so good.
Yeah, he is actually crazy. I think I remember when I said that Doom was going to be good. By the way, potentially.
They played it.
I know. I just wanted to say they played it once. They played it once, but I legitimately do think when you see this Glads match in particular, because I'm not counting the Houston match because the Houston match was essentially this.
We'll talk about the Houston match.
Yeah, I'm not going to include that, but this Glads match, when you watch this, I agree with everything you said, Josh, because they realize that, like, okay, we're not going to play hit scans, so we need to have effective swaps. And I legitimately do believe, especially if they want to beat teams like the Reign or even Shanghai, you have to be able to flex onto a comp to deal with the hit scan. And like when you're playing against these slower comps like BAP, Brig, or even we've seen like the Moira Brig in the slow comps, not the rush comp, but the slow comp at least. And I legitimately think it's pretty good since Sparkle's Doom is so good.
Yeah, to that point, I feel like the parallel could be Soldier 76 in the main melee, where Sparkle brought it out to counter echoes. Yeah. I feel like if for June Joust, the pick could be bring out Doom to counter the Brig comps.
Yeah,
and I feel like that would be the the hero pick. Yeah,
and it's so much to Dallas Fuel's credit that they figure out these kind of things, and also to Sparkle's credit that he has the flexibility to play them, but also the expertise on the Doom and Genji. Because now we're not talking about something that Sparkle isn't known for, like Soldier, where it's like, holy fuck, why is he like? How did he even think to try and play that? And he's actually pretty good at how he's positioning and shooting. Doom and Genji are his bread and butter. You couldn't get more Sparkle than those picks. You just can't get any more in his comfort. But he is...
God, this kill is bullshit on Moth.
That is crazy.
This kill is such bullshit.
I wanted to talk about this, though. This map was really fucking close. This map came down to the wire on both of the rounds that were played. I feel like the Gladiators were just inches away from being able to take this series, but it consistently went the way of Dallas in like all of the clutch moments.
Oh yeah, Gladiators looked really good. Gladiators looked really, really good during this. I think Space had his best performance I've seen from him in ages. Like, this is the best performance I've seen from Space the whole season, and he looks so much better. In addition, once again, putting out to the void, Birdring literally should never be benched by this team and should always be playing. Like, literally all the time. It's disgusting. In fact, I know all the EU simps are like, Kevster's so good. Kevster's so good. But the reality is this team would not make it nearly as far without Birdring. Birdring kind of just benched, like just hardcore bench pressed Gladiators at some points into like these huge moments. His awareness on the map is like so good too. It is, the way they went for flanks. He got shut down hard by Dallas though, because Dallas are just playing really well. And Dallas has continued to be the most well-rounded team right now in the Overwatch League, legitimately, despite the fact that they have huge holes in their roster for hero pools. They continue to be the most well-rounded in terms of like understanding win conditions and comp swaps.
Is it weird? I still feel really confident about the Gladiators through the whole season. Like, they haven't really looked like, the first stage obviously didn't look great, but like, to your guys' point, I thought this match was like super competitive. Like, if the Gladiators, I think the Gladiators would have put up a better fight against the Reign than the Shock did by far.
Yeah, for sure. Stylistically, I think I agree with that.
Yeah, like, I think this is just a really tough matchup with the team who very well could win the whole tournament, right?
Yeah.
I think the Gladiators, though, they're definitely trending in the right direction for the rest of the season. I think more birding in the lineup. I also wonder, Kevser making his way to LA, if that's ever going to be a thing. Getting
Yeah,
him
it
off
happens
the
this
high
week actually.
ping.
I think
Oh, he
it's happened
did.
this week.
Wait, really?
Oh,
He's coming. I believe so. I don't know where I heard that from. I believe it happens this week.
So you're just
randomly throwing that out into the
randomly
void?
heard it, huh?
yeah. What?
I can't remember the sources on that, but I think that's happening.
Okay, guys, Kevster's showing up, and also he's 8 feet tall, and he's 300 pounds pure muscle too.
But I mean, look at what that's done for.
Didn't the LA Gladiators like tweet this out or something?
Look at what that's done for like Fielder and Iris. Like, what do you think that's going to do for a player like Kevster?
It could improve it drastically for sure.
So I think only good things for the Gladiators in the future. I think some of the players that even I didn't expect things from this season, where like Skewed has looked really good on the brig. They've seen a final role for him.
Yeah.
I think a pretty good team.
Yeah. I'm confident. This stage re-energized my hope for Gladiators. Essentially, I have become much more confident in them after seeing the performance here, and especially seeing what I feel like. Yeah, Skewed had good performances, but this stage in particular, when I was watching Skewed play Brigida, I was like, the seeds of the tree that were planted in the Skewed Brigida like palm they have flowered, because Skewed's Brigida is legitimately insane. He actually does not miss flails.
No,
ever.
He's crazy.
He literally doesn't miss flails, and it's insane how much value that gives for you in this comp, because your Brigida always has to hit the flails to deny like Winston, things like that, and he just never misses them. So I do think that this is a very, if you're a Gladiators fan, you should feel a lot more hopeful. But at the end of the day, Dallas Fuel are looking continually just to be the most well-rounded team in the league right now.
Yeah.
So
Can we take a look actually when we finish the end of this clip cut at Junkertown or Hollywood? Well, even Hollywood as well, man. Dallas Fuel clearly do have still some problems in their game. They got full held on Hollywood, and that was clearly a like hardcore counter strat coming out from the Gladiators, putting Mirror in. He plays Torbjorn. They just played Torb Reaper, and they just annihilated Dallas whenever they went for these dives onto the point.
That one time, when Doha TP to the high ground behind them on the Hollywood, I think you guys were casting that, right?
Yeah.
And they had no idea he was there.
Yes, I thought he was just hiding up
madness.
top. Yeah, that was a bit crazy. But other than that,
I can't find the Kevster NA shit, so maybe I'm just wrong.
You might just be making it up.
Maybe I'm just talking shit on the podcast.
Very possible. Well, ask
playing classic WoW, just throwing out accusations.
That's not true. Okay, that's true.
But this final team fight as well was crazy. This could have gone either way multiple times.
This series could have gone either way, to be honest.
What does that do about your confidence levels for Dallas? Do you feel like, because I think most people would say they're the favorites, but even though this was a 3-1 game that they won, I felt like they did get tested, and they still, while they've done a good job at shoring up some of their holes, in my opinion, they should have lost on Junkertown as well. They should have been full held by the Gladiators. I think Gladiators kind of beefed that. And then you go into a 5th map, which is another control map, and this one was so close. I think there's definitely opportunities for them to lose. I don't know whether, I don't think they're the same unstoppable juggernauts in this.
Well, yeah, I think you can say that. I also think you can look at this as almost like a pre-final final, in the sense that like you felt like these potentially are the 2 strongest teams in the entire league at this time.
Really?
Where if the Gladiators were if we're sitting here today and the Gladiators ended up beating the Fuel 3-1, we're talking about the Gladiators as potentially the favorites to win the entire thing.
Yeah, but that's also that's also the world in which they are not worse than Dallas, but better than Dallas. So of course they'd be the favorites.
I mean,
Josh, if they had won, consider that.
Yeah, if they had won, what about that? Yeah, no, I think I still feel really good about Dallas Fuel, like to win even the June Joust, but I think this is almost like a, if the Gladiators would have won, this is like almost like a little pre-final. Like this could have been the 2 best teams that we had in the whole league at this point.
Could have been.
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting both Shanghai Dragons and the Atlanta Reign to integrate more Torb into their play this week in practice. because they Gladiators showed how good it was on Junkertown on Hollywood here.
Yeah.
That being said, though, I would be scared now because Dallas Fuel got this experience under the belt. And like you talked about earlier, Josh, like how they integrate new things into their game and how they're adapting. This is now scary because Dallas Fuel, they know their weakness, they've played against it, and they have the chance to study it before the weekend. So like they could even come out and just like we haven't gotten there yet, but their target prioritization versus the Houston Outlaws and like how good that was and how they made like the Houston Outlaws look silly. They could maybe find something that would expose the Torbjorn composition in a similar fashion and just be dominant against those teams well. So I Dallas Fuel, they struggle in this series. That could be the answer to play the Torb to beat Dallas Fuel, but also they could just start exposing that composition because they're the Dallas Fuel. And that's
look at the health of the Gladiators players in that fight. Mirror
this is
was
also
down to
such
5
a silly
HP.
fight that Shu wins.
Space was about to be demoted. Skewed was so weak.
But I think at this point, if you're a Dallas Fuel fan, you should feel confident because the thing is, both their biggest opponents, in my opinion, coming into this are going to be like Shanghai and the Reign.
Yeah.
And both these teams have stylistic differences to them, but Fuel have now proven they can beat a team that counterpicks them very well and also has that counter style. And like, based off how Fuel's look so far, you should feel extremely confident in the Fuel. Like, if Fuel had made this match even closer, or if they, obviously if they had lost, like, then you're like, oh crap, like, are our hero pools, like, is our hero pool solution, the lack of a hit scan and such, is that really going to hurt us? Obviously they have Pine, but we still haven't seen Pine play yet, so who knows how that's going to fill into the roster. But since they won this, in my opinion, Fuel have shown they are continuing to be the most adaptable team, and you should have no confidence issues about them, right? They can still have some tough matches, but you should not be unconfident in
absolutely. Also, I just wanted to ask about the Pine question. I've still seen this. I was talking about it with my chat, and people in the chat were like, hey, they could play Pine because they won't have a ping difference. He can just play from Korea.
What?
Thoughts? To me, that's silly. That's pretty. This would require a rush. This would require we've had the moon marijuana, the crusty crack pipe.
What is the rush?
I don't even know what the rush. What is an R drug? I don't know. It would be like a Ritalin, but that doesn't work because that's just like Adderall. So I mean, maybe the rush Ritalin. Like, I guess. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like,
do people say smoking the rhubarb? Some rush rhubarb.
The rush rhubarb. I mean, that could work. The rush root. You the rush root as well.
The root.
Yeah, the root could work. I mean, I think in that case, it's because it's just strange because they've already shown they can beat the counter comps and they've been practicing with this roster the whole stage, right?
Exactly.
So all you do is blow up your synergy before the stage finals.
I mean, that would be ridiculous.
Silly.
I mean, if they played Pine, like, think about this. Like, Pine is like, he's like, I don't want to be called the big boss. Like, it was a lot of pressure being in the league. And then if they just fucking chucked him in here at the end, like how worse of a way to integrate somebody could you fucking think of?
What if he popped off then I'd be like, fuck it. Like, Rush is the smartest person. Rush is the smartest coach ever exists.
I couldn't think of I mean, the only worst way to like integrate a player would be like, if the Shock make it to the finals this year in a game 7, they put in Tayo and we haven't seen him in 18 months. Like, I mean, come on. Like what? You want to see, we all want to see Pine succeed. The way he succeeds is not coming in here without any practice and just winging it on Junkertown, picking Widowmaker here in the June Joust finals. It's just not how it works.
It's not how Pine, like, who he is either. Like, when Pine does good, yeah, we praise him for it. But when Pine does poorly, it's like, I physically cringe because it looks so bad when he underperforms.
If they
like, when he goes for these flicks,
he'd probably be like, fuck no, I'm not going in the game.
Yeah, Pine needs to come out confident and consistent. And you're right, Matt.
Play him against the play. You want to play him on ping? Wait till you got the Titans, the Spitfire, who else? Well, play him against any of those teams on 300 ping. Don't play him here.
Yeah. All right then. What the Dickens did we have next?
Houston Outlaws?
The Houston Outlaws.
Just catching strays there. Sorry.
Okay, so this game, while it wasn't the most, I don't know, man. This wasn't actually the most important game of the knockouts by any means, but it raised some of the most kerfuffle in the entirety of the community.
Fuck, yeah.
I think mostly just because maybe because it was the battle for Texas and people got emotionally invested, but people came out of this really pissed at Houston, like pissed at them. And I can understand why you would be annoyed, but some of it was just bonkers. Like the kind of shit I was seeing on Reddit and Twitter was like the fans were out for blood. And this comes back, I think, to my original comment about setting your expectations successfully. If you believe that we were clowns for putting Houston in 5th, then of course you're going to expect them to win this game and maybe win the whole of the June Joust. But then you're dumb. You need to set your expectations properly, and then you won't feel as ridiculous when the team flops. I don't think it was unreasonable to say that Houston had a chance in this game, but they had to do very specific, incredible things to outplay Dallas.
Who wants to start?
I mean,
it's just me and Avast.
It's just us two. I mean, well, first of all, I don't even think that's like that area. I agree with the narrative, but that's like implying that Houston came out and like played the right things. The first part, right?
They played some right things on this first map. I mean, the comp looks all right.
I mean, I would say this. I would say right now, this particular comp, when you see on screen, this is a pretty synergistic comp, right? But as soon as we got off this and we arrived to the Brigida Moira, which was the majority of the series for Houston, and you played Rush, then we were no longer allowed to say, well, you know, your expectations were too high, because I just didn't see the same Houston, right? Like, granted, did I think Houston was ever going to win this game? No. But like the point being is like, lots of people did. Lots of Houston fans, they were finally excited. Like, it's been 3 years. We get to see Houston be good. Like, yes. But not realizing that, like, there's a massive gap in this team still currently. And also, they played Brigida. They played Brigida Moira Rush. And, like, there's no
justification.
Excusing it. There's no justification for it, really. Like, you could see what they were going for legitimately. It's like, okay, well, Juby is going to, especially on like Eichenwald, it's like, Juby is going to pocket our Echo player, and our Echo player is going to win the duels. But the problem there is that Juby then got walked over like a doormat the entire time, and it was just a really sad time for Mr. Jubinton. And he did not get to play the game, and it never worked at any point. So, and then, you know, Houston players, I think, players are taking this like, I get why they're really upset, because because I don't think any of these players are dumb, and they probably realize, holy shit, this comp was bad. Like afterwards, and they're getting really defensive about it, and people are like calling them out. And I don't know what type of hate the players received themselves. Like they were probably like, if people were out there criticizing like Dante or Happy, I'd be like, you guys are just morons, right? Because like obviously they're not set up for success because their comp is tragic. Now people are criticizing Juby. I'm like, okay, sure, but Juby probably didn't choose to play the Brigida.
It's not like Juby was coming out here with the strat book being like, move over, Junk Buck, I've got a plan.
I've got the Brigida here, right?
Dude,
like
it makes no sense. Like their entire June Joust is just very odd. Like they signed Dreamer, we didn't expect him to play much. Then they play him on Ball and Orisa, but then sometimes Jungkook comes in to play the same exact things. When they wanted to play Brig exclusively, they've had Jake in the game, but then here when they played Brig, they had Juby in. Dante's look great on the Echo. Dante's look great on Echo the entire time. Then you take it away from him. Maybe they got a little bit too like big brain. They thought they were like gonna game it a little bit. I don't know, but
which just happened.
I think if you're an Outlaws fan, or even if you're the players, like Avast said, like there's no way the players probably thought like this is the ideal composition, as Dallas is just ramming through them.
What I don't understand is why. Okay, I mean, I can kind of understand this, but I feel like they fundamentally misunderstood how dangerous Dallas Fuel's comp is if they actually dive on top of you. And yet, at no point did Houston try to back off and try and force Dallas to dive short and give Happy space to operate. They just tried to hold their ground against every dive and got massacred. They weren't trying to do these little disengages to give Happy some space. They just face tanked it.
Or if you're going to play like this, just play what Atlanta plays. Put Dante back on the Echo, put Juby on Mercy, and then have Happy play like the Ash or something.
I mean, they also don't play that on Control, right? Because control
yeah,
maps
you're not
are
gonna,
too.
I mean, you should just be playing Rush, right?
Too small.
I mean, like that was the also crucial part too, right? If this was the comp that was dreamed up by the coaches, why was their spacing so bad on this? Like, because you see it every round where, and you talked about it just now. Why the hell was Juby fucking happy there, ready to just take the fight against the entire Rush, right? Like that's madness. It's literally like the Game of Thrones scene where they have like Jon Snow stand up against the cavalry charge, like solo, like as the entirety of the fuel fucking comes at them. It's madness. And the thing is, I see what they're going for with the comp. The comp, you can see their wing conditions and what they're trying to play. You could see it when they were going when the Brigida Morello too,
like right here.
Style. But I mean, this is just clearing space. Nothing's even fucking happening right now. Like they're just clearing space. But the point being is like in this upcoming fight, you're gonna see them get rushed at again, and they're just gonna get walked on top of. And it's like, why? Where's our spacing? Where's our spacing here? Right? This is the first time they probably spaced properly, but they're still not spaced that well.
I mean, they were trying to do the spacing though. Like that's where I think I disagree with two of you a little bit. It's like I could see them sometimes playing Happy far back. It happened on Hanamura a lot. Like their spacing was good on Hanamura. Where Happy, well, not on attack point A, but like Happy would distance himself from the rest of the team to play further away. So they were obviously trying to do that. The problem was they couldn't apply any pressure onto Dallas Fuel to force the bad dive. And so they, like, Houston would overextend to try to poke Dallas, but that just made it easier for Dallas to dive. Like, the execution was just all wrong. I think the game plan was there.
I can't see how that's, I don't even think that's the right spacing still, because you can't only split Happy, right? Because then Juby just gets run at, or right? So that's the issue, is that like I feel like they have to play their whole back line split from their whole front line.
Also,
I'm just saying, I think the idea was there, but the execution was just wrong.
But why do it now? I think
they were generally trying to do that.
I don't know. I personally don't think they big brain themselves. I think that once again, and the fundamental issue with this team still is that their support lineup has put them in a situation where they're trying to do things to change it up because they don't have an optimal support lineup. Is the real problem here. And I don't think it's a big brain thing. I think they're saying there was like, well, fuck, like we want to play Brigida, but Jake's our best Brigida. But also, Jake is not a player. Jake is not a support player. Like he's not a support player, right? And then we have Juby. It's like, oh, Juby's Lucio is great, but he doesn't feel as confident on the other heroes. So then it was like, well, what the fuck are we gonna do, right? So we have to find these weird sort of setups to like maybe, and then also maybe it's like, oh, well, Dante's been doing well in the Echo, but maybe Happy performs better with less of a pocket, right, in their scrims. Maybe Happy, like they could deal with the fact that Juby's on the comfort pick, and so Happy performs a little bit better because they're swapping their supports. To me, all of this leads back to the support lineup. Every time when I look at Houston,
but then
it leads back.
What
to
is the answer there, though?
Well,
there is no answer.
Even before that, though, Avast, I think a lot of people who are Houston fans understand that that Juby's a little limited and wants to play Lucio, which is why it boggled their little brains to see him play Brig. And he didn't play the Lucio. People are like, why would you play him on this worst hero?
You may as well just commit to the Brig and put Jake in at this point.
See, now this is the true tragedy for sure. This is like the first control map. You can like, okay, like they're trying something out. This is where we saw an unbelievable tragedy unfold before our eyes as Jubington was hunted down like a rabid dog and just taken out every time.
Yeah,
it was just a sad time.
He was already a target in the previous maps, and now he was just an even easier target. And also, the entirety of Houston can't match speed against Jexa at all. They're just sitting ducks. They're getting overwhelmed. Yeah. So we were talking about spacing issues. They become even worse when you don't have a tanky composition and you don't have speed boost to be able to navigate your way around. And if Juby wants to try and bash somebody as they engage, then he doesn't have the bash to escape. And if he's trying to whip shot someone as they engage and then bash away, why the fuck wouldn't you just play Lucio?
Is this did we not see them play in week 3 up until this point?
No, they took a long break.
This had to be something that they kind of like concocted in their break, because they didn't play anything like this leading up to it.
We saw some other teams play Brig Moira as well, so maybe the meta went that way in scrims.
But we only saw people play Brig Moira with Orisa. No one else was playing Brig Moira with instant comps.
Yeah,
I don't know. It was a tragedy. I think they were boomed on Eichenwalde for what it's worth. I think they were just boomed by this map. Like they even got boomed on like Busan. The way they got brutalized on Busan was like disgusting.
Yeah,
so I think
this is a rough one. I also want to propose another theory for us to examine here, And I think part of the reason why the narrative was so strong for Houston coming in and people were still believing, oh, Houston's still really good. Houston had a ridiculously easy stage. Yeah. A ridiculously easy stage.
They had a weak strength of schedule, yeah.
They had an insanely easy stage for them where they played like London, Defiant. I think they played, they played also Mayhem, who also looked pretty rough. And the only good team they played, and then they lost to Atlanta. The only good team they played in the regular stage, and they got, they lost. So I think people's expectations were really high because they had a good stage 1 without realizing that this stage was way worse for them and just overreacting to the strength of schedule.
I think it's very hard for fans to understand strength of schedule, though, because it does change a lot from May Melee to June Joust. Like, if you see Houston beat Mayhem, if you're just a fan, you're like, well, that's a really sick win. That's a great win in that game. But when you watch the match and you see that Mayhem didn't really have their best performance in that match, you have to adjust the strength of schedule very rapidly in your head because the meta changes so drastically. Like, you need some level of insane recency bias to go from hero pool to hero pool when you only have 4 matches in each. Like, you have to drastically change in your brain, like, what value winning over a certain team has. Yeah. Even
you guys
week
remember
to week,
when Sideshow said that Washington Justice were worse than on a Spitfire?
I do remember that.
I stand by that for that week, but Washington looked enormously better.
They did look fucking trash.
But that is also part of it is that what Washington went from being crap. I mean, like, none of you guys as well were arguing that they were the
they looked
third
tragic.
worst, right? I think we rated them as third worst. So So even if we ignore my hotter take of them being second worst, third worst to being, I don't know, where would they finish towards the end? Like top 5?
Honestly, I thought they were like a top 4 team by the time they finished. No joke. Justice looked so much better that I was like, holy shit, like, this team is actually, it's a shame that they inted the first couple matches because they would have done well in the playoffs,
The Outlaws have gotten all of their easy matches out of the way. So their schedule the rest of the way looks, the next tournament, they'll have Shock, the Corpse of the Vancouver Titans, Uprising, and Fuel.
Why'd you put it like that, Matt?
I mean, it's true. It's accurate. I'll give it.
But actually, that isn't that bad of a stage, Matt. They play against Titans and Uprising.
Their final stage before the playoffs is Justice, Reign, Mayhem, Gladiators.
Yeah, that's tough depending on how good those other middle of the table.
You have only have like 1 free win in there though. Like, out of those 8 games, the Titans one is the only one that's like a guarantee. Like Boston as well, but the other ones are pretty tough.
And Boston, I don't even think is a guarantee because Boston can have moments where they look like pretty decent. So
it just, I think also though it depends on what the final stage meta actually looks like. You know, if you're playing against Reign, Mayhem, etc., Gladiators for that final stage, they could either be incredible or pretty mediocre. And we've seen both ranges of that.
At least you'll know what, because the hero pool this stage had Rhine, Tracer, Sombra, Zen.
Yeah.
So those heroes will be guaranteed to be in that final stage. Like, they won't be able to be banned. So you'll have those, which... those help the Outlaws a bit, but
so that means that one of the what? I understand. I was thinking about like which main tanks would get banned, and then I was like, no, it doesn't have to be a main tank; it could be an off tank. So it might just be like Diva that ends up getting removed or something. People play
also
Winston Zarya everywhere.
Yeah. Before we move away from this topic, can we also kind of agree that Dallas Fuel are just such a unique opponent? Like, it's so hard to play against them compared to any other team that were in the knockout stage here. So as much as we want to be hard on the Houston Outlaws and their loss here, like, Dallas Fuel plays such a ridiculously high pace and they do it so flawlessly and perfect macro game that, like, it's so hard to prepare for what's coming to you in knockout matches like this. So
do you
to be fair, I would have trusted if they had played against like Shock, I would expect them to lose the Shock here too. Because
but do you think they would have even played the same stuff? I don't think they would have played the same comps.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, because to me, I'm like, what did this comp? I don't know to me, I don't really see what this comp did to counter comp Fuel in any way.
I think it was some attempt at a big brain. Juby's going to hit
on
all his
control.
rip shots
On
and
control,
stuff.
I could see what they're going for. They're trying to play a slower hit scan comp, right, and to stop the dive. And so, like, okay, we're counter comping Fuel because they can't play hit scan. But the rest of the series, I don't see what they were counter comping Fuel on, right? If they because like to me that just seems like a general, oh, we want to empower our Echo more in the duel type of thing. And that seems very general. So I don't think that would have really mattered for who they played against, honestly, their comp. I think every other team that played Rush would have just run it over all the same.
I think they would have beaten Boston, and that's about the only other team that they would have beaten in the knockouts, right? I think they lose to the Gladiators and the Atlanta Reign.
Yeah, probably, I guess.
But still, I think they looked worse because they were up
But if they had played
that...
Lucio, I don't know. I have no idea. Well, I would have to see. Who knows?
Okay, well, let's move over to the APAC region. So we've got the Shanghai Dragons qualifying over the Seoul Dynasty. They are set up for a rematch against the Dallas Fuel to begin with here. Shanghai have been so consistent all season long, apart from the very beginning where they got 3-0'd by Chengdu Hunters, I think it was, right? But apart from that initial blip on the radar, which also happened last year, they've just been great since then. They've just been performing at a top level. This was also the game that saw 10 environmental kills from Lee Jae-gon as he just ran around the map, booping people off cliffs over and over again. Just ridiculous.
I mean, yeah. Just this was just a little bit of, I mean, that whole game with Lee Jae-gon, I mean, I saw a tweet earlier, if he was on the Titans, he would have ran Pizza Hut dry of breadsticks with the amount of environmental kills he got. I mean, my lord. Shanghai's just they're just really consistent. They don't feel like they're invincible. They don't feel like they're dominant, but it seems like they at least I mean, I think it's just kind of maybe the conversation is just more of like what is just APAC overall. It just seems like they're just a step ahead of everybody over there in terms of team coordination, you know, even roster wise. I think they're still adding players. You know, they signed Who Are You, and then I believe it was a Halo who reported they're bringing in somebody from Talent Esports. Potentially.
It's rumors. We're not talking about rumors on this podcast, man.
No,
come on, man.
You made up a rumor about Kebster earlier. You literally made one. I mean, come on. Where I think this team seems like it's going to be fine throughout all of the tournaments in APAC. Can they just win any of them at the end when they get up against some of the teams from NA? I think that'll probably be more the question. Surprised to see they qualify.
I was very impressed in this game by how fast Shanghai were to make decisions. They constantly were attacking into Seoul. Even here where they're defending the objective, right? They're always fighting Seoul as they come through the choke points. They halt booping them. They're putting down the amp matrix really early, fluxing them here. They're always in their face, never giving them time. They seem like a very strong, high-tempo Orisa team. They have demonstrated no ability to play Moira Lucio. Just none. So how can you even
from the
know?
Gladiators game, I think, and the Atlanta game, there is a real possibility that this stylistic clash it's not just an objective better comp. There is, if you play it really well, you can win. So I think this is actually a really cool storyline coming into the into the June Joust, is that which style is really better. And I think that's going to be a really fun thing to watch, particularly because APAC has been entirely resistant to playing at what they call the zombie comp because nothing dies. They call it zombie because nothing dies.
I actually love that. That's a great name. That's way better than Neo-Goats or Dupligoats.
I think this is... Well, no, I call it Dupligoats.
Yeah, I think the zombie comp is much better, though. I think
zombie comp
really
is fun, too. It's a fun one, but I think it's a really cool storyline looking in. And I think that Shanghai overall, they're just, like, I agree with. I also feel like now all the people that doubted the Fate trade in the beginning need to suck it, because Fate is like legitimately I feel like people underrated Fate very heavily coming into this year, and like he started out like kind of rough with the rest of Shanghai, and then quickly everyone realized again, oh, Fate is like the most insanely consistent main tank like in the league. Like he's not necessarily hitting the highs of Fearless or Smurf, but he's really, really consistent, just insanely consistent.
I think also Orisa's probably his best hero too. I think compositions
his
like
Arista's
this
really good.
are really good for him because his coordination and his halts and probably his communication as well when it comes to that stuff seems to be extremely strong.
I mean, come on, bro. This is just like he's just got fucking flying around, just knocking everybody off the side of the map. I mean,
it's where he thrives. It's where he thrives. Is when there's chaos.
Part of it is because Shanghai are taking such aggressive fights. They're taking fights in the choke points before Seoul are allowed to get to the point. Whereas a lot of other teams at the moment are taking fights on the objective. They're waiting for the other team to get
I fucking dare you. Sponsor Lee J. Gun. Start giving away breadsticks for that guy. See what happens.
Yeah. They just want to give out the breadsticks. That's why they're sponsoring Overwatch.
Hell yeah, I want some breadsticks. You ever have pizza breadsticks?
I mean, breadsticks are the cheapest item like on the menu. They cost like 10 cents per pound.
And I could easily order them myself, but getting them off of an Owl team would be the ideal scenario.
So Jonathan's thoughts are worth half a breadstick per pound.
Yes.
Is that
his thoughts are worth half a breadstick per pound. Yes.
Yeah.
5 cents a thought.
5 cents per
pound of bread.
Let me give you my 8 cents about this topic.
I wanted to get back to the fate point though. Like, I feel like it's so impressive to me how Shanghai strategically are just like better than the APAC teams here. Like, they had so many weeks to prepare in this region for composition, strategies, what they wanted to play. And it felt like they were just like no one really figured it out except for the Shanghai Dragons on how to play this double shield properly and how to, I mean, even the Seoul Dynasty, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you playing Mei here?
Surprising?
Yeah, what's the Mei? And also, why was Gesture playing Hog for weeks? And why was Marvel playing off tank? Soul, why the fuck are you doing this to me again, you bastards?
I mean, I literally, I don't even know. I have no more thoughts on Seoul Dynasty because I've said it from the beginning.
I know.
I don't trust this. No fucking sense.
You warned me.
No fucking sense.
You warned me, Connor, and I didn't believe you. I thought they'd change.
No.
I thought they were capable of change.
They're never going to change. They won't. They won't do it. They're always going to be that one guy in the wife beater who you're like, he's so bad for me, but then you look at him, he's like, he's so hot though. He's so hot. Every time you look at him, he's just, and that's Seoul Dynasty. They're so flashy. They're so slick. They're so cool. But at the same time, they're just so toxic for me to look at. And so I just can't deal with this team anymore. I've given up on them.
I couldn't become a fan of them because it would just drive me so mad. Like, I would just go so angry. I'd be like, oh, look at this. We look great. And then all of a sudden, we just fucking, May McCree, like, what the hell's happening? When was the last time we saw Tuyu?
I mean, he's playing in this match.
No, but the thing is, before this match, though.
I think he only took one off.
Before this, we saw Marvel for weeks, I feel like.
I thought it was only 1 week. Was it multiple? I can't remember. I thought it was only 1 week that Marvel played, but I don't know. Tuyu's been in and out. He's played for the majority of the season, though.
I mean, the point being, though, even if he's been in and out, but like at the same time, they haven't really been building any like consistent synergy with him because they've been playing Marv 1.
Yeah. They also haven't been playing him on main tank, which is what I wanted them to experiment with, is just trying
Tuyu and Marvel?
What? No. Well, yeah, actually, yes. Marvel and Tuyu. Yeah. Marvel on main tank, Tuyu on off tank. I want them to try that at certain times. In metas where it favors them. I mean, not in this meta, because Jester was playing Hog and now he's playing Orisa. Those are great heroes for him, but yeah, anyway. Shanghai looked really good, though. I loved how proactive they were, how fast they're playing. I'm just really concerned that they won't be able to win on control. Playing any kind of Orisa composition, even if you're playing Bap Lucio, which is what they went for, I don't think you can avoid getting overwhelmed by the zombie comp. I also, who are they going to practice against to be able to see if they're good enough to play against Dallas? How are you confident that you're going to be able to beat them when you have no team that's anywhere near as good as Dallas to practice against?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a trust. I mean, the real difference maker for me when I see is like, do they die or not? It's Li Zhigong. Honestly, Li Zhigong, because like I feel like especially if they're gonna play a lot of Lucio continuously on control. They like the Lucio Bap comps. So much of that comp of them not dying is on Li Zhigong to essentially stop being a frag monster looking for boops like a little crackhead and peeling for his team. Like he actually has to be hardcore posted up offensive linemen stopping the rush like every time and speeding away, or else they're going to lose. They're just going to lose.
Yes. Yeah.
So how do you think this team stacks up against the likes of like Atlanta Reign? Or, yeah, I mean, NYXL they beat, right?
I think they match up fine against the Atlanta Reign because they also have a very good grasp of more pokes. I mean, that's what they play is the Arista comp, right?
Yeah.
So and I trust in them to be able to take, like with Fludda and Lip, I don't think they're necessarily at a disadvantage, right? Like, sure, does Pelican look better on the Echo? Yeah, like I'd say so. But I think they're stylistically they match up a little bit better currently than Shock. So I think they're in a pretty fine spot. I could definitely see them beating the Reign. So.
Yeah. I think that's pretty. But again, to me, it just comes down to control. Like, if Moira Lucio comps are just better at control, Shanghai will go out in third. Because if you lose on control, you are just going to lose BO5s. You will just lose the game against Dallas, and then you will lose the game against Atlanta. Even if you beat them on every map where it matters with Orisa matchups, with direct Orisa head-to-heads, you'll lose on both control maps, and then you'll probably lose on like Assault as well. And you'll just end up losing the series. So, to me, until you can answer whether or not their composition is viable on control, you just can't know whether or not they're going to have a chance to win. I feel like they're at a disadvantage because they don't even have the option of going to Moira Lucio. If they lose to Dallas in control, they're probably going to lose to Atlanta as well, and it's just GG.
Yeah. Doesn't look good at that point.
But it just comes down to whether or not they can figure out ways of dealing with the rush comp, the zombie comp on control maps.
Play what do we just see? They'll play Soldier McCree with the Arista Sigma.
I actually think the Soldier idea is interesting, but I just don't know how that ever beats that comp because it's like the Soldier's just like tickling you for like
you run
the whole
away
fight
from
and
it.
then someone dies.
You run away from the rush.
Play Soldier Reaper.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm interested to see it. But I think they stack up better against Reign than Shock did their match. Okay. So,
Diem retired from this team recently. So not only have they lost Erster to retirement, now they've lost Diem as well. So there's reports that they're going to be signing somebody else as well. But this is essentially just these 6 players now. Is that right? I think they had an 8-player.
No, they have Molly.
Oh,
Molly.
You're right. Yeah, they have Molly as well.
Yeah.
I'm sad to see DM go, but also he didn't seem like he had a space in this team. He's still a crack talent, but he didn't have... He wasn't integrated into the team. He didn't get played.
Yeah.
He was just sat on the bench, and then he'd come out every now and then to win a Widowmaker 1v1 tournament for $10,000, and then he'd just go back to the bench. That was it. That was his life.
It's also, I think, difficult, like, if you're a player like a DM or a Erster who's like played considerable amounts of time in the Overwatch League to then just be a bench guy, where he doesn't have a place on this team. But then also, it's not like Diem's not really like a development. You're not like developing him as a player. Like, he kind of is what he is as a player, right? Like, he kind of fits that Pine-ish niche. Where I mean, it stinks to see him go. But maybe this allows him to take some time. Work on his game a little bit. He's obviously a very talented aimer. Maybe he's able to come back.
I'm amazed that they put a 6-part farewell to him. I understand that 3 of those parts are probably a translation, but I'm reading fanfic right now.
Well, it's glad. I mean, I'm glad to see that Shanghai cares enough to put that into a player. I mean, I prefer that to the inverse, where it's like goodbye and fuck you to some of the players.
How long was your retirement tweet?
Mine was actually I actually got a very nice heartfelt letter from the president of gaming. He wrote it on the Oval Office stationery.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
You used to do those long tweets, right?
He did.
Those long
and
posts?
then, they used to do that, and then I mean,
I like Huck.
So it was nice. I think that was probably the most Huck had thought about me that entire season. My retirement tweet.
Yeah. It's the closest you got to playing a letter about me playing.
Hey, I played in preseason. There's only one player that didn't play in preseason. It's Joe Meister. So I have more play time than Joe Meister.
Yeah. But you're not coaching Harrisburg University, are you? So
I'm not.
Really
Instead, I'm on this podcast. So where do I win or lose? I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I think that every time we show up for an episode, did I win or did I lose with my life?
They called Diem the gentlest of souls and the deepest of philosophers.
Whoa. The deepest of philosophers.
I mean, that is some serious shit. That guy's doing some heavy lifting in terms of morale behind the scenes, perhaps.
I don't think about anything that deeply.
Yeah, I've never thought about anything that deeply in my life.
Yeah.
But
Diem in the practice room. It's not about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit.
wow.
Back up again.
Who's hitting him? Maybe
bench.
he's retired. People were hitting him in the practice room.
I'm fucking tired of it.
What do you know, Johnny? More rumors here.
It's philosophical, Matt. Come on, man.
Does anyone have any information about who they're picking up? Whatever that is.
Yeah, let me find it.
Who was that? Wasn't it? I can't even remember the name.
I will say in the meantime. I'll say in the meantime. I don't want to get Sideshow's boner up because he loves Diem so that much. But in Overwatch 2, if it's 5v5, maybe we could see Diem get back if it's a more DPS centric game and they have more input. Because Diem would be like one of those players that could carry some of those 5v5 games if Widowmaker turns out to be really important.
Yeah, definitely.
Develop from Talon Esports is the player that they've that Halo's reported that they are looking to sign. So
information.
Honestly, don't know that much about Develop. So I do not have the information you seek currently.
Let me look at his signature heroes on Wikipedia, and we can draw big conclusions from that alone.
Cool.
McCree, Widowmaker, Tracer, Ash. Well, there you go.
Well,
18 years old.
When he gets signed, I'll watch some VODs, and that'll do it. Okay.
Yeah.
T2 fans are livid in our YouTube comments right now.
He was born on December 16th.
Yeah, but also, mate, he was playing for OZ for last year. No one was watching that team. Does OZ, by the way, have some fucking blackmail material on all of the GMs in the Overwatch League? How the fuck Friday and Skewed and Checkmate getting all of these positions? This is now 4 out of 6 of the starting lineup from the worst
Johnny's
team in
fucking
Korean
in on
contenders.
it too. He keeps promoting Checkmate on the show.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Jonathan was asking.
It could be a financial aspect too, where like the players themselves are very talented, but also they might just be cheaper. Like who knows? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know exactly what the negotiations entails, right? But I mean, being on a bad team doesn't preclude anyone from being a good pickup. So
yes, but it's quite unlikely that there was 4 excellent players on a very bad team.
For Talon, they just got second. They just got second to O2 Blast, and I guess the Defenders. So
yeah. I mean, I'm talking out my ass. I have no idea. It's just really surprising to me to see so many people from the last place Korean Contenders team get promoted when a lot of other talent didn't. But I guess actually Skewed has been very good. It's just...
Yeah.
Okay, anyway. Hangzhou against NYXL. Nobody predicted this game. So I don't believe there was a single person on Earth that predicted this game. Hangzhou had lost like 1 map in the whole of the June Joust before this?
Yeah.
2?
And they pooped the bed.
On stage as well.
At their own homestand.
Okay. At their own homestand.
So could the hype and scenario of the homestand have led to more pressure for the team here?
Sure.
NYXL playing in their little practice room, nowhere near Hangzhou. The only focus on the stage is on these players in their home city, in front of their home fans. The entire place, I mean, the stage and everything looked awesome. Everybody decked out in pink. Could have added some more pressure here for them.
It could have, but the reason that I don't buy it is because they were running Anna Brigg and Winston Zarya the entire time, like it was the main melee again. They were just running that on every map, apart from the final map. And it's just not viable at the moment. You can't get value out of it. Also, their players looked very, I don't know. They looked sheepish as they came walking through the crowd. So I guess maybe some...
Well, you have to remember, these players never got homestands.
No, but some of them played in the Blizzard Arena, didn't they? There's like...
Ooh, so
I mean how many players?
Not many.
I mean, IDK?
IDK, Gushway. Architect. That's
Architect,
it, really, right?
No, Bernard didn't, right? No, he was...
No, Bernard was not... Yeah, Bernard was on 2020, so there was no Blizzard Arena.
Yeah, I mean, Shy hadn't... Yeah,
I mean, be honest. I mean, this is a very valid reason. It's like, oh, we choked due to nerves. Like, sure, but at the end of the day, it's still a choke. So
right, yeah. Look how many people are there, and it's not like there's another team on stage who has to deal with the pressure of the fans. NYXL's just chilling somewhere else. They have no idea this is even happening.
I love the idea of that. Like, they don't even know that their faces are being.
They have no idea they're walking out. They're just sitting in the lobby, just waiting for the game to start.
Question mark? You guys ready?
Yeah. So I don't know. I was very disappointed with this game because and I was like, my Sparks stocks, they'd started to soar after I so heavily. I've been like, oh, Sparks gonna be good this year, guys. And then they plummet one final time, like Icarus soaring too close to the sun. And I'm sad. And I'm just really sad. So I don't even know what to say. I mean, they're really disappointed about this team. Legitimately, I'm just disappointed. Like, I think they have so much potential and it just keeps on crashing and burning. It's like I'm in I don't even know, like an early biplane. That's Spark.
I wanted to get your opinions on the match itself, though, and the compositions that were played, because we saw NYXL attacking with Orisa Zarya, and they were bubbling the Reaper to be able to kill the Echo on high grounds. And like, I'm watching that game, VOD reviewing it, and I'm like, I'm stuck in a fucking fever dream. Both of these teams have no idea what's going on. And then people are in my chat like, but it's working. It must be good. And now I'm getting twisted, and I need an outside opinion. If you're watching this and Hangzhou Spark for multiple maps, for 3 maps, play Reaper Echo with double bubble and an Anna Brig backline, and then New York, when they're attacking, are playing Orisa Zarya and teleporting Feather or Flora, whoever's playing Reaper, into the backline to then do a little bit of damage and Wraith form out. Am I losing my mind, or is that wank?
I think this is ass. I think this is crazy. I think this is ass. I think the crazy. So New York, I had no expectations coming into like this match. I was like, okay, New York's like probably, but Spark literally were playing something that was pretty good. Like before this, they were playing perfectly fine. They had like a relatively synergistic comp and everything. They had like kind of in some ways people were like, oh wow, this like Ashe comp is pretty good. Right, that we can play around. Like they had like this to me, they all received collective head wounds or something, and they emerge on stage and they're like, guys, what if we played Reaper with no Lucio? And I'm like, why? In what universe would you ever do this? Like double bubble, I could like the double bubble on a Brig, and even the Echo. I'm like, okay, like there's something going on here, right? Like if they had played like Shy on like McCree or the Ashe or something, like there would sort of been like a synergy, right? But this Reaper, and then you think about how this also changes up the composition for the rest of your team. It's like, okay, you can give all your resources to your tanks, but your tanks can't do shit because they're playing fucking, I mean, look at the New York's comp. Like, what are your tanks going to do here, right? Like, there's nothing they can achieve, and you're playing the Echo that's getting shot by the McCree and the BAP, and then you have a Reaper that's just, like, this, all this is madness. This is all madness. I look at this, and I feel like neither of these teams, we should not be too happy with any of them, and should not expect much from them.
New York's comp spawns after that 1 week where Yakpung just kept jumping in his Winston and just getting insta-killed. Did you guys see that clip where on Hollywood he's just like standing in the street and he's like no HP, and then he just jumps up, just flies up into outer space? This is like when you kind of thought about Chinese Overwatch and like the Chinese contenders like Hex used to cast overnight in these ridiculous games. This is the type of shit you would think about. I mean, there's only 2 ways.
That was another level, though. That was a different dimension of madness.
I mean, yeah.
That was
there's only 2 ways.
Shit.
There's only 2 ways this goes. Whoever would have won this match, obviously it's New York, but like, they have the fucking ideal comp that is going to just blow people's doors off and surprise them, or it's going to be you're going to be gone in 2 and you're going to be like, what the hell was that? I think it's closer to that than these teams have figured something out. I'm just surprised Hangzhou actually lost this. I even thought, even with the non-ideal comp, that the Spark were looking good enough to be able to pull a win like this off.
Spark does to you. It just lie. They lie and lie, and they lie some more until eventually you're just sad. And also, legitimately though, New York's comp, not the Zarya comp they played. Dear God, not the Orisa Zarya comp they played. But this comp with the Reaper and the McCree, it's just like a variation of the anti-dive.
Yeah, it's just
what you're
normal.
looking at.
Yeah.
Very
So
normal.
this comp, if they execute it really well, I could see value. But like the Ursa Zarya is just straight up crackhead.
And we have
I
seen
don't know what's going on.
Flora really good on the hit scan stuff.
Flora's McCree is
He's had some
excellent.
moments,
I'm really happy if they continue playing Flora McCree. He looks good on that. And Jonax Bap is good too. Friday's whip shots have been pretty
I'm
decent.
just worried about
well.
the tanks of New York.
Oh, they've
That's
looked
it.
so bad on like the Winston Diva shit. It's like I've mauled so much about Jakpo and Bianca playing the Winston Diva and shit. So I'm not surprised if they were just like, let's just put you guys on Orisa, okay? Like pat on the head, you
I'll
guys do
move.
your funny shit, play your Orisa, and the rest of the team is gonna pop off.
But I like
because
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, I mean I was gonna end it there. Just like, yeah, I mean, I can see that's why they moved over to this comp. And also, I wonder how much practice some of these teams, like the Hangzhou Spark, got against some of these bunker compositions, because like APAC didn't adopt this meta until like week 3 when Shanghai Dragons started putting them out. I knew Chengdu Hunters played some Orisa in week 1, but I mean they lost to the Shanghai Dragons doing that shit, and they kind of gave up on it. But besides that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Haven't seen a lot of it in the APAC region.
No, we really haven't. And we haven't seen pretty much any of that zombie comp either. So I like New York's defensive ideas. I think they make sense. I hate the way that they're playing attack right now. And I mean, even when we're talking about defense, actually, when it came to Dorado too, both teams were matching Reaper on attack and defense of Dorado, playing Orisa comps, mirrored Orisa comps, but with a Reaper on both sides. Like playing Reaper Ashe on defense. And the Reaper could just do nothing. Like, you just can't do anything. Why would you not be playing Echo Ashe in that scenario and run Mercy Bap instead? I don't understand how the meta has got to this place in APAC with these teams. Shanghai, to me, seem like they have a great understanding of what they want to do and how they want to exec. But I am lost in the sauce watching these games. Absolutely lost in the sauce.
I don't know. I don't have a lot of expectations for New York coming in. I do think they have individual talent on this team, but I wouldn't be surprised for them to roll up to June Joust and just pull up something equally like this. They've been saving a pocket strat, like of just like, we're gonna do something you've never before seen type of situation. Because who knows? At this point, you played Orisa Zarya, anything's possible.
I tell you what though, this is I mean, look.
Zarya.
We're kind of talking ridiculous a little bit about New York, where I think they probably don't have the greatest of chance. But I will say this is like a pretty big moment for this team, right? A really young team. Everybody was like, oh, like they kind of scrapped everything that they had and the history and whatnot. Like you can see there's some promise with some of these players. Like,
I agree.
But maybe you have some questions about the tank line. But I think like Floor and Feather have been like pretty good. Jonax seems to be like re-energized a little bit with this team. I think there's a lot to like about this team going forward. You'd expect them to only get better from this point, right? You wouldn't expect them to kind of fall off the face of the earth. So
I don't know, actually, Matt. The thing is with APAC is that they don't actually have to perform that well in the June Joust to make it. They just need to win that one knockout game. They didn't have a great June Joust. It's not like we were thinking that New York were a great team over the course of the regular season. What is their record right now? And what was their record in June? Was it like 2-2?
They're like 2-6 or 3-5 or some shit like that, I think.
Yeah, they have a profoundly negative record. They didn't even go positive in the June Joust, did they? No, they went 2-2, I guess. Yeah, 2-2. They beat Philly, they beat Valiant. And then they only have to win one game to be able to make it through.
Well,
I don't think that this is some kind of
for them though.
I don't think this is some kind of like breakthrough moment though for New York, because they're just going to get beaten down again and continue to have mediocre stages. I think this is just a flash in the pan.
See,
I
feel
think
like
going into week 3, they were the second to worst team in APAC. I think going into week 3, well, I don't know about Philly where we ranked them, but I think they were like the second to worst team at times in the June Joust.
I rank Philly pretty low in this current stage. So, but I mean, that's the thing, right? Is that to me right now, I look at this and APAC just feels like a jumbled mess where like a bunch of teams that should honestly be a bit better have no fucking clue what they're doing. And like the only team that has ever gotten their shit together is Shanghai.
Yeah.
And like and Fusion in last stage. Last stage because they understood the meta pretty well. But this stage they did not have any success understanding what was happening for them, and they didn't have like a very good Echo player.
Both of these Reapers, by the way, do not generate an ultimate this entire attack. This entire round, neither Reaper does enough damage because they're all just poking each other from distance for them to generate a single ult. So they just don't. They're not actually being useful at all in the engagement, neither Feather nor Architect. And yet both teams continue to play attack and defense Reaper in Orisa comps that are based around poking each other. It's just madness.
I don't know.
It's just madness.
I just don't know what's going on here, realistically. So this to me seems like a wash of like teams. Spark had an idea, lost the idea, and it's over. Like,
Spark have to play in front of their home crowd, and look at New York. Everybody's got their.
But that doesn't mean you start playing
chilling.
what you played all of June Joust. You don't just suddenly have amnesia because you stand in front of a crowd, right?
Some people do. Some people do,
sure.
Yeah. Knees spaghetti, arms wet, whatever the lyrics are.
What?
Arms wet.
Knees spaghetti.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
No, I mean that's pretty similar.
Arms wet.
All right, well, talking of
knees spaghetti.
Speaking of spaghetti, the Valiant and the Vancouver Titans. We were pretty harsh on them last episode. I thought that the Vancouver Titans looked a bit better this week. That they at least had signs of life. It wasn't complete potato, even though they lost their matches. Did you guys have a different impression coming out of that game?
Yeah, it was more like fingering potato this week.
They looked more competitive. It was good to see Dalton in the mix. We got to see Dalton. I mean, it still doesn't change the fact. I mean, what? Like, did we write a whole segment off the fact that they won some map? Well, I mean,
I was not ready to talk about
not even a map. The Valiant, they won a map. I mean, are we gonna start writing segments when teams win rounds? I mean, come on. Like, what is this? Like, I mean, I don't know what you want me to say.
He had a banana. Valorant had a banana.
Valorant had a
banana. I don't know what we want to talk about here.
I think the Valiant topic should be more tied into Fusion more so than Valiant itself. Like, but for Titans, I actually remember I posed at the end of the segment. I says, "Are we overreacting?"
Yeah,
and I think we did overreact a little bit because they didn't quite understand where they wanted to go. Doesn't mean Titans are good. No, I mean Titans aren't tragic. No, like that's definitely true. But I still think there is redeeming qualities to this team. I think there are players on this team that are actually relatively solid. In particular, do pick up Teru and Fried. And I think they just didn't understand the meta quite well, and they're still just obviously not set up for success. So they'll still not be good, but I think there's going to be periods where this team looks unbelievably tragic, and then periods where they're like, oh, okay, all right.
Okay.
There's some players on both of these teams, like we talked last time, that are good. It's difficult to see it because as a collective, they're so tragic. Like playing together, it's just like it clearly does not work. Like there's just shit not clicking. Like some of these players individually are like not bad. Like I think Terry's looked good. Crystal, Mayo, Hangzhou, some money or whatever, but he's looking good. But like there are some players who look decent on these teams. It's going to be difficult though to, when a team's not winning rounds, it's going to be difficult to look at it as like a positive, right? But I think some of these players can be pretty happy with their own individual performances. I think the Titans, they haven't won a round since May 28th. I think that's what I saw.
A round?
They haven't gotten an objective.
Yeah, like they haven't even capped.
Yeah, they haven't capped since May 28th.
I mean, we're forgetting something extremely. At the end of the day, the most important part here is that Titans are building up to the greatest storyline in the Overwatch League. More storylines than I care about anything else. More so than Shock, anything else. It's all about breadsticks. It's literally all about breadsticks. The entire season is building up towards breadsticks. I simply don't give a shit about any other narratives. It's like breadsticks is the most important thing to me currently.
Here's what needs to happen.
On top of that, they have now started putting out their own personal pizzas. You can vote for their pizzas for each of the players. Like at this point, Titans are becoming a pizza franchise, and I'm all for it. I'm all for Titans just becoming a pizza chain.
Where they just open up like ghost kitchens of pizza places.
Think about it. Like they're not even going to be a team anymore. They're just going to open physical locations in Vancouver, hire players from contenders, and they're going to learn to make pizza. And that's gonna be it. They get up on stage and it's a whole gimmick. They're like the Harlem Globetrotters. We're like, they're not there to be good. They're just there to like spin pizza dough around and do stuff like that.
Do the Spitfire? Do the Spitfire have a food sponsor? They have a food sponsor.
I have no idea, man.
Yeah, here you go. You can do your pizza craft.
It's so tragic though, because you just can't push engagements like this. Should we make a pizza?
Yeah, whose pizza do we vote for? Let's vote for a pizza.
Well, Matt, I wanted to ask you this question earlier. You said some of these players can be proud about their individual performances. And I don't mean to be rude, but who? Who would you say on the Titans?
I think Teru can. For sure.
Yeah, Teru.
Okay, well, let's make a Teru pizza
Dalton
then.
coming in and showing signs of life, I think, can be good.
All right.
I didn't say everybody.
No, I genuinely wanted to know who you thought.
I gave you some.
I think Fried has had some okay performances, at least in stage 1. It's been tougher this stage, but for stage 1, I think Fried
honestly,
had some
even I'll even say Chongsik from coming in not playing for 2 years hasn't looked like he is completely out of the water.
I think about all the.
You've been reviewing that.
I mean, look, we've seen some tragic shit from other teams, Johnny. I think of the tanks we've seen in the Overwatch League, in the history of the Overwatch League, that have played. I wouldn't put Chongsik near the bottom of that.
If you put Chongsik next to like Roshan from season 1 Shanghai,
remember who was it?
Bar. 3 years later.
Well, it's not the bar, but you're viewing the Titans as an Overwatch League franchise and not a pizza place. And if you view it as a pizza place, then they're all doing pretty good. And that's the thing.
No, they're still not doing good. They haven't given any breadsticks out to anyone at any point.
When Tyrong said that MG was going to be like a tremendous player, like where's MG at, or Zushu?
Okay, all
Roshan.
right. Okay. Jesus Christ.
I hate olives.
Pepperoni.
That's honestly not bad. I don't like black olive though. I don't like black olive.
Segment.
I'm not a huge black olive.
Does each player have their own pie?
Yes,
their own pizza?
Yes, they do. And you gotta vote for them. Yeah.
We're rating the pies.
Power rankings?
Who's got
power rankings? Get the
power rank the pizzas.
Kurt, let's bring it up. So first of all, I'm already gonna say it. This one has black olive. I don't like it.
I love black olives. They're delightful. They're delicious.
Yeah, they are. But not with roasted garlic and black olives.
What?
That's the combo.
You don't think garlic and olive is fantastic? That's
but not the roasted garlic. Yeah.
Can we pause for 1 second? If there's anything that some of the other Owl teams can garner out of this, is that if you have cool promotions, it doesn't matter if your team blows. We're about to spend 20 minutes ranking these players' pizzas.
Wait, no, we should not spend 20 minutes. We should spend 10 minutes max on this.
Bullshit out there. Cover it. It doesn't have to be super serious all the time. Look at this. Me and Avast don't want to rate Linkster's pizza time because it's got black olives.
Yeah.
We don't care how he plays. His pizza though looks all right. I mean, come on.
Once they open up their physical location, they're gonna get. I guarantee. I'm calling already. They're gonna have a food truck. Let me check. Let me check Dalton's.
This is worse. This is worse.
No, it's not. No, it is not.
Who is thinking, I want to put pepper on my pizza? Let's go for green. Who the fuck is going, let's go for green pepper?
It's fine on pizza.
No, red and orange peppers are so much better. Yellow peppers, they're all better than green peppers. Green peppers are just the shittest of peppers.
No, you don't
put those. Red pepper on pizza.
Why would you not?
Because green has a better contrast to the pizza.
They're all peppers. They're all just peppers. They're just different colors. They're all just fucking peppers.
But they taste different, do they not?
True. They have vastly different flavor.
They taste similar. I'm going to be honest. Peppers of different colors taste extremely similar.
You close your eyes, you couldn't tell what color the pepper was.
Yes, I could. Yes, I absolutely fucking could. I might not be able to tell you. I don't know whether I could tell you the difference between a red and an orange and a yellow, but I could definitely tell you the difference between a green pepper. You give me that shit raw in my mouth versus a red.
If it's on a pizza, could you tell?
If it's on a
I don't think
fucking
I could.
pizza, absolutely.
No, I'm with Matt on this.
Sweetness is massively
And
different.
also, the general theme of that pizza fits together far more. Okay, that pizza, Lynxer's pizza is like the Hangzhou Spark of pizzas, right? Like that shit, that comp-wise didn't make any sense. Didn't make any sense. But Dalton, that comp made sense.
I bet Josh likes fucking anchovies on his pizza. That's
I've never tried it.
He does.
I've never tried it actually. I do like.
I thought you said you did like them.
I like tuna and garlic pizza.
Oh, tuna. That's what it was.
Tuna and garlic.
Yeah,
I think that kind of slaps.
It does slap. It does. Have we got another pizza?
They haven't shared any.
We have 4 more pizzas to go through.
They haven't shared any of their other pizzas.
Yeah, Kurt's trying to find them, but he can't find them.
Oh, okay. Well, of those 2, which would we rate higher currently?
Oh, Dalton's for sure.
Dalton pizza. Yeah, Dalton. It's 3 against 1, Josh. You lose.
Oh,
you lose.
You guys are just so wrong. Post in the comments. This is what the comment has to be for this week. Do you prefer Dalton or Lynx's pizza? One of them is right and the other is wrong.
I actually feel blue-balled just having to wait for the pizzas for next week so we can review the next pizzas next week.
A slice of one of Dalton's and one of Lynxer's, and we'll test them out.
Yeah, we could. If we were paid by Pizza Hut. But otherwise, we're just giving them enormous amounts of free promotion for no good reason.
Titans, when you open up your food truck and all the players are just hourly workers in them, I'm going to be one of the first to go to that. I'm going to be one of the first to see Lynxer make me his pizza.
All right. Well, let's see whether our takes are this bad when it comes to the bracket. I want to move on to June Joust bracket predictions. It's a double elimination format. We've got the 4 teams. We know what the opening lineups are going to be. It's New York playing against Atlanta and Shanghai playing against Dallas. Rematch in the May Melee finals on one side, and then Atlanta playing against New York on the other. 2 teams that I don't think anyone expected.
2 teams geographically close playing against each other.
Yeah.
How do we want to start this? Have we got a bracket to go through, Kurt, or are we just winging it? Which one should I begin with, Kurt? Oh, here we go. Okay, then. New York, Atlanta. Let's start there. Someone, even if you don't believe it, sell me on New York. What is the win condition here for New York?
Atlanta, they end up playing some ash shit most of the time. New York plays this weird McCree type of thing. Feather pops off, and Jonak looks like Jonak, and they lose in 5.
So you're saying Feather, who's playing Reaper in the Reaper McCree comp with no Lucio, is going to pop off by walking extremely slowly the Atlanta rain.
Yes.
I feel like if anything, I mean, to me, maybe if Atlanta tried to force the rush more, and then they're still playing the Reaper Cree, and they just win because they counter dive them. They just win the counter dive.
Sorry, say that again. So you think if Atlanta play a ton of dive,
like if they try to force the rush with.
Right.
If they try to force the zombie comp, with Gator on Winston and Hawk on Diva, and they try to run at them, and then they play this weird ass Orisa Diva for New York with Feather on Reaper and Floor on Cree, and they just win the counter dive.
All right.
Maybe.
Okay, there's a win condition.
Otherwise, I think it's just gonna be. I mean, realistically, I think Rain's gonna 3-0 this. So.
Yeah. I think this is gonna be a nasty little 3-0 to start us off as well.
Yeah.
I can't see it.
All right. Sad news for New York fans. What about this one, though? The blockbuster rematch of the May Melee Finals. Dallas Fuel against the Shanghai Dragons. I'm going to say
this is going to be a 3-0 Dallas.
Ooh.
3-0.
Woo. I think they're going to roll them.
I don't know about 3-0. I agree with you that Dallas Fuel are such a tough team to beat, especially in this meta. Like, even if Shanghai Dragons come out to play the double shield, like, as I said earlier, Dallas Fuel, they're so hard to practice but prepare for and play against. I think Dallas Fuel is also going to win here. I don't think 3-0, though.
I think Dallas, for whatever reason, remember the interview that Fearless did with Danny, and Danny kind of pressed him to say what he really felt. Like, for some reason, I feel like Dallas don't exactly like Shanghai, or there's something there.
Man, Matt, it's not like Danny squeezed some god tier juice out of him. He just said, Fearless, go on, say it. And Fearless said, I think we're even better right now. He didn't say anything about Shanghai. He didn't say they were bad. He didn't say we want to crush them. He just said, we're really good.
I think there's something there. I think Dallas 3-0s.
I think it'll be like a 3-1 myself.
Yeah, 3-1, I think.
I predicted 3-1 because I think...
this is how I started to go up the rankings. I stopped giving teams pity maps, not saying they wanted to get
But I think that the way that these maps end up going, Dallas look unstoppable on control, especially against a team that doesn't play the zombie comp against them. Then Assault happens exactly the same. So the win condition for me is that Shanghai take them to Hollywood and win. In a similar manner to how the Gladiators beat them. Doesn't have to be a full hold, though. I think Shanghai look really good on Orisa comps. I think they can get the winner against them on Hollywood and then maybe end up losing on Junkertown. It could even be a 3-2, though. But I predicted this as a 3-1 as well.
And also, I don't want to shit on New York, but I'm trying to make the point that I think they are by far the underdog in this event, and if they happen to win, that's an incredible achievement, and that's super respectable. So I hate this thing where people are pissed because you're not considering teams' alternatives or chances to win or trying to be nice to them. No, I'm gonna be real about the not Dallas Fuel, New York Excelsior being the underdog by far here. So if they absolutely pop off and win here, that's going to be fucking sick,
Yeah.
So because I think a lot of people are going to sit there and be like, well, you're so mean against the New York Excelsior. They made it to the top 4. They beat Hangzhou Spark, but I'm just trying to be real.
Yeah.
I saw somebody put a interesting, I guess, some kind of stat from our stats lab. That was in 2021 during matches where a team plays Winston versus an Orisa comp in 615 team fights. The win percentage for the Winston team is 38% of the time. For the Dallas Fuel, that jumps up to 58%. Playing against those Orisa comps.
But that's not in just this meta. That is the whole league.
That is this year.
Right.
Yeah. Which still is when you consider.
Was anyone playing Orisa last meta at all?
There were some people playing. There were some people
Winston.
playing Orisa a little bit, but it was still not nearly as much as
Yeah.
the stage. So not nearly as much.
Atlanta against Fuel in the upper bracket.
I think this one's gonna be a banger.
Yeah.
Same.
I think this will be a banger. I think this is the match that could go the distance, but I think Fuel 3-2s.
Yes, I had the exact same prediction.
Yeah.
Now, here's my question. Who actually wins the mirror? The Moira Lucio mirror in this
Fuel.
match? Is it
Hugo?
Is it just straight up Fuel? No contest?
I don't actually.
Okay, but
I'm not
say.
too high on that. We've seen Dallas Fuels. They've had close matches with Florida Mayhem in the mirror, and they also got beat by the San Francisco Shock in the mirror. To me, Dallas Fuel, they haven't looked super dominant on the Echo Reaper mirror. The impressive wins are when they've played against shitty double shield teams like the Houston Outlaws who fuck it up. That's where Dallas Fuel look impressive with this composition. So I actually think against I guess they beat the Gladiators too in a very impressive way. Yeah. But I feel like the Dallas Fuel, if it comes down to the mirror especially, I'm not going to think that they're going to be the favorite by far. I actually think Atlanta Reign has a pretty good shot in the mirror. It's a 60-40, 65-35 maybe. So I'm not going to count Atlanta Reign out if they decide to mirror here. And then Atlanta Reign, they have the benefit of being able to go to Orisa maps and get a map design advantage as well. So I think it's going to be very close.
Did Matt just say his dog pissed on him?
Yeah, no, his dog threw up on him. Not pissed.
Oh, threw up on him. Okay.
Hugo threw up. He had, so I don't know what happened to Hugo. Actually, that's a really fair point, Johnny. I totally forgot that their mirror wasn't looking that good. But I think because they did play against the mirror and the Glads at one point, right? Didn't Glads try to mirror them?
The first map, and they won. Yeah. It was really close, but they did win.
Yeah. So to me, I feel like Fuel has been improving on the mirror is the thing. And also, I trust them. I do trust them because this comp seems to fit their style pretty well, even if they looked rough in the mirror at the beginning. So I still believe in them overall, especially because Rain is in an interesting situation where it seems like if they want to play the mirror, they want to play Edison, and they don't want to play Kai. And so it's a player they're not typically rotating in. as well, which doesn't mean nothing's bad, but more so it could throw off synergies.
It also
so I'm still confident in them.
I think it also,
and also I think Fearless Hanbin are a much better Winston Diva combo. So
yeah, it concerns me slightly, that swap for Edison, because if you're playing, say, Hanamura against the Dallas Fuel, and you realize that your Orisa compositions just aren't good enough to be able to stop them, and you want to make the swap over to mirror them in the zombie comp, does Kai end up playing Reaper there, and he just plays for you anyway? I guess that's what would happen. Or maybe they just wouldn't want to mirror because they don't want to put Kai in an uncomfortable situation doing that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I just see them play it on control, and that's it, maybe.
I agree.
Let's move down to lower bracket round 1. It is New York playing against Shanghai in our bracket. Is this just another 3-0 to Shanghai?
I would expect that.
Yeah, it is.
Sag. Well, let's move on.
But Shanghai, if New York does better than that, I think this is, like Johnny said, miraculous, and New York can maybe be considered a contender, or we can just get into the next stage and APAC continues to boom us forever. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they could do better than this, and it still wouldn't be spectacular. If they won a map in each series, it wouldn't be spectacular. They wouldn't be blowing the fucking barn doors off. But,
yeah.
Shanghai, I think, match up better against Atlanta Reign than they do against Dallas. Is that a hot take? I feel like
I think that's fair.
In Orisa games, I think that they could take them. I predicted a 3-2 win here for Atlanta, but I could definitely see Shanghai winning this.
I like Atlanta too.
The reason I predicted the 3-2 is because I think Atlanta should have the advantage on control maps. So I feel like they just have an innate advantage in the series because they can play zombie comp when it comes to control maps. If Shanghai were good enough to beat that composition on control, they probably have a good shot of being able to beat Dallas anyway. So they're not in the lower bracket anyway. So in our bracket, I think they probably just lose to Atlanta as well.
I don't. Last in the main melee, I underrated the Shanghai Dragons a little bit, and I don't want to get put in that same position this time around. I feel like they have played this Orisa comp now for a while. They have Fleta and Lip, which could hold their own against Pelican and Kai. I feel like this is a bit of a coin toss, and I don't want to underrate Shanghai Dragons here. I feel like they could definitely win here. They are just such an experienced team. They adapt so well. If you 3-0 the New York Excelsior, you also have that momentum going into the next match. Like we meme about it, but the number 1 and number 2 seed has been cursed in the qualification games. So yeah, I don't know. I could definitely see Shanghai Dragons winning this one too. I just don't want to us all to just talk about the Atlanta Reign and how they're going to win this match.
So what,
I definitely think Shanghai Dragons could get into.
Would you predict a 3-2 here for Dragons?
I mean, I'd seriously think about it. Like this is one of those matches where I could see myself flipping like the night before.
Right.
Like for sure, absolutely, I could see Shanghai Dragons winning here. Like you have Lip and you have Fleta. The only thing I'm worried about really is the Echo matchup, because I think that Pelican, he is so proactive and so aggressive. Like the value he got against the Shanghai Dragons was so impressive. Or fuck, man, I'm so tired. The value Pelican got against the San Francisco Shock was so damn impressive because he's proactive, he's aggressive, right? He gets into the back line of the San Francisco Shock, he finds pick, and like the Fleta, they've pocketed Fleta a lot with the Mercy. He gets a lot of value that way. But I still feel like Fleta lacks that decisive aggression at times to just like snap into a carry role. And Pelican has that vibe around him that he can just like fuck up an opponent's backline out of nowhere and just like win some of these fights by himself. It's a bit of like the Summer Showdown from last year with the Genji. And I feel like Pelican has that EQO kind of aggression, whereas Fleta, he's consistently probably like a top three Echo in the world. But when it comes down to display, shut up. Dude, fuck, man.
Johnny, are you okay? Are you good over there?
I'm okay.
I don't know what's up with Johnny.
All I've said about this morning is how I fucking haven't slept and I'm boomed and I'm super tired. But I'm here anyway trying to put on a show. So I'm sorry. I'm stumbling over my words. I'm sorry. I just feel like shit. But yes, I think Shanghai Dragons can be very competitive.
Yeah, you should apologize to all the viewers.
So So you have not actually answered the question. You've just said that this is an insanely close game.
I could predict the Shanghai Dragons 3-2. Yeah, fuck it, I'll do it. Okay, it's not gonna matter because you're gonna vote me down. But
Well,
so you're
I
picking
don't
them
know.
basis
Comes
off
down
of
to the other two.
Are you picking them off the basis of that you believe that they can actually win this game, or off of the basis of you underrated them in the last time and you don't want to be in the same
I'm telling
spot?
you, they have Lip Fleta against Pelican and Kai. Very respectable DPS matchup.
Yeah.
They have Fate and Void against Gator and Hawk. And they've already settled in and started playing this Orisa composition. They could very well just outplay the Atlanta Reign on their own game. For sure, absolutely, Shanghai Dragons have the player personnel and the experience and the adaptability to beat Atlanta Reign on their own composition. So they could do it for sure.
By the way, whereas Atlanta are playing a lot of Orisa Diva right now, with Hawk being extremely proactive in shutting down opposing Winstons, Void is mostly playing Sigma. And that, to me, raises its own question in terms of what adaptations do they make, not just in terms of the DPS line and that kind of stuff, but what adaptations do they make against rush comps? Like, does Void actually end up playing a lot of Diva to try and shut that down? Or are they just going to try and stay on double shield? Because I just have no idea how Shanghai is going to deal with ZombieCon. I just don't think they're going to be able to do it quickly enough.
I
wonder if they even come out and try
it. Here, let's hear Matt. Matt, what are you going to say?
Oh, no. I mean, I think Atlanta wins this series. I think if you were to say that Shanghai can come out, I also think you probably learn way more about this bracket after seeing how Shanghai deals with the Dallas Fuel. Like, if Shanghai is able to, keep it close with the Dallas Fuel, and Dallas Fuel is playing the zombie comp, and win or lose, you like Shanghai to make it probably all the way back to the finals. If Shanghai just kind of gets rolled over and it's clear that the aggression they can't deal with it, I think then that kind of poses a problem, not against New York, but more against Atlanta. I would take Atlanta because I think we've seen more variation from them, more look. I think Pelican has also been just a fucking psycho. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's all it comes down to, right? Is that APEC have not played against this rush comp very heavily. Pelican looks to be the best echo potentially in the whole league right now. And also Atlanta are confident enough that if they needed to, they could match them in the mirror of the Orisa hit scan echo, right? So overall, I think Atlanta looks like the far better team currently, and I don't know if Shanghai has the depth to deal with, because I would have said if Rain had won yesterday but had not played the rush, like if they just only double shielded, I would probably vote Shanghai for this match.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But because Rain came out and looked really competent on the rush comp, I feel much more confident in Rain heading into here, because they've looked good on both the shield, the Orisa comp, and also with the rush. So I feel it's a Rain 3-2, but I think this could be a very close matchup. I think it's going to be a Rain 3-2.
Before we go to the final, I also had people in my chat asking me just before I did this, what are the chances that Atlanta Rangers shits the bed? They haven't been in a playoff scenario like this where they've had a serious chance of being able to win. They're flying over to Hawaii. They have some players that it's not that the players have flopped before in clutch scenarios or anything like that, but they've never realized their potential. They've never done that before. What do you think the chances are that they just turn up to Hawaii and just bomb out or massively underperform expectations? Maybe they beat New York, but then they just get 3-0'd by everyone else, and it's like,
possible.
Oh, old Atlanta's back.
And I think it's more of the fact that I think with how the structure is, especially I guess if you're an NA team, feeling that you just make it out of the knockouts and the way they feel like they probably already accomplished something, right? And then you almost forget there's still two other teams from the other region you have to go up against, and then the one team from your own, to where, maybe they, or even, honestly, New York plays fucking weird. Maybe they overlook New York, think it's going to be a walkover, and it's just not that. You never know. I think obviously it'll be a learning experience for some of these players, from the standpoint that every other team has players who are experienced in these kind of big game, end of season playoff moments. Like even New York has Jonak, right? Who kind of is used to these type of games. I hope they don't bomb out because I really do feel like it's this team's kind of opportunity moment. Like this is kind of everything seems to be clicking as good as it possibly could click for Atlanta.
Yeah.
I don't consider Atlanta that kind of team. Falters under pressure like that. I feel like if anything, they have a very strong mental.
I mean, didn't they get reverse swept by Defiant?
Yeah.
True, but that was also like, there's a lot of asterisks there. I feel like with the meta, it was leaning towards Winston meta, and Atlanta Reign had been playing a ton of Rush leading into the season. Like, I feel like there's some context required there. When it comes to like playoff performances and like living up to the expectations, stuff like that, I feel like Atlanta Reign, I don't see them doing that. I don't see them bombing out like that. I think Kai and Pelican are still gonna fuck on land. Well, it's not even land, but just like traveling.
Yeah. I believe in the players. It's just that Atlanta have never got in a good position to even have the opportunity to choke before. They've just never been good enough to choke. If you're a top team, you can choke because the expectations are high. I don't feel like Atlanta have ever even been in a position where they're like, oh, they're going to win, and then they underperform. It's just been constant mediocrity for them up until this point. That I think that's part of the reason that people don't believe in them here. I think this bracket's going to be very controversial because people are going to be like, oh, how the fuck are you overrating Atlanta this much? Anyway.
You think so?
Yeah. I think so, yes, because I was talking to my chat about it and they were molding at me.
I think people, as someone does, I was also a Rain doubter too, and the shock match convinced me pretty heavily. I mean, even the earlier matches, they were looking pretty good, like this stage, but the shock match convinced me when I saw their depth. I was like, it's pretty good. Like, that's not bad. So okay. I feel like you have to be kind of crazy not to see that Rain is looking. And the thing is, we don't really know if Dragons are going to lose or not. It's just I have seen less depth from Dragons, and I think Pelican currently is the best Echo in the league. So I think it's fair to put a 3-2.
All right, well, let's move on to the finals then. My hot take when I did my bracket was that Atlanta were going to win this 4-3. And I know that is a hot take considering we already predicted them losing it overall, and that would not be, the safe money is on the Dallas Fuel. Don't get me wrong. The safe money is there. Here's my argument, though. In this series, because it's a BO7, there are more escort maps. And in fact, there are more escort and hybrid maps than there are control maps. You play control twice, so Dallas Fuel could go up 3-2, same as they would in a BO5. And then the next two maps are another hybrid and escort, where you would favor the Atlanta Reign. So I feel like there's a pretty good argument here, just looking at the map types, where Atlanta have more of them, where Orisa comps are better. Now, whether or not you believe they're still going to win when it comes to the Orisa comps against the Zombie, that's something different, right? But if you do believe in Atlanta's Orisa comps, it's more likely they win the final than they win the upper bracket final, just because of the way the map types work. So I fucking went for it. I was just like, yeah, fuck it, go for a punt, 4-3 win, crazy shit.
It's possible. I also think, too, I went back to go look at the May Melee. We never got the two NA teams against each other, which obviously you reduce the ping from 90 down to basically 0, and you have the better tournament client servers. It's going to make a difference. Where some of those escort maps are the large, like Junkertown is in the pool.
Dorado, Rialto. Junkertown, Dorado, Rialto. You can't. Dallas can't even pick a good map for them.
And you put somebody like Kai on the Ash of the Widowmaker on like the 0 ping type scenario there. Like, he could just fucking farm. I also think as well, like, Atlanta's rush doesn't look tragic to the point that they couldn't steal a control or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely possible. I think if their Orisa comps hold against like the teams like Shanghai and even Dallas, we have them losing Dallas 3-2, having some extra escort maps and some time to prep, it's doable. It is doable. I think this is where you would have the question, is the moment like too big for them, right? Would be this type of scenario.
Sure. I mean, Dallas did it last time. We know that Dallas can do stuff like this.
I think I think regardless what happens in this series, it's not going to be easy for the Dallas Fuel. Like I don't see them finding an answer that's going to be like the key to beating the Atlanta Reign and their slower comps. So it's definitely going to be close.
Yeah.
I feel like Dallas Fuel, they still have that presence though. Like they just have that. They just have that swagger, like in grand finals, in elimination moments, like when it's, when it really matters. That doesn't mean a whole lot, but it still matters a little bit. I definitely think Atlanta Reign has a chance here, but I think it's hard to make the argument that Atlanta Reign are favorites because of the map types and the comp difference as well. Yeah. I feel like it's a bit of like a 55-45 or a 60-40 here.
I think Reign also, in my personal view, when I look at the matchup, Reign are just a better version of Gladiators this stage right now. Instead of relying heavily on Bird Ring, like, instead of relying heavily on like a Reaper to open up their fights, they rely incredibly heavily on their Echo to open up their fights for them.
Sorry, go on.
And so to me, and also they're slightly more reliant on their double shield than Gladiators are. But when I see that matchup, then I extrapolate it to, it's like, well, Fuel struggled against Glad's comps, and I look at the depth that Reign have shown, I still feel like Fuel are favored because they've seen the pretty much the strongest you can get into anti-dive now with the Glad's compositions of Mirror on Torb and like the anti-zombie. And now they're dealing with pretty much something that's going to be a little bit less focused on countering their rush and more so getting picks a little bit early with Kai on the Ashe.
Yeah.
So, and then like having Pelican also patrol the fights a lot more on the flanks. So they have a lot more opportunities to also, if they can punish Pelican and keep Kai from getting a lot of space, they have a lot more options to open it up than as opposed to when Glads, when they wanted them to fight them heavily, they wanted to take this engage and like they didn't want to have the space. So to me, I still think Fuel are favored when I look at the stylistic matchups between the two and what they would have learned from their match versus Glads and their overall performance so far. But I think Reign have enough star power to make it close still, and that it's going to be like a 4-3 for Fuel. But I still think Fuel are favored overall because I just think they've learned so much from their previous matchups now that they can see how Atlanta are going to play, and they would actually prefer Atlanta to play a little bit with a little bit more spacing because that gives them the options to set up their coal engages more aggressively. And things like that. So I actually think this is like a good matchup for them still. It's just going to be hard because Atlanta is just currently an amazing team.
I'd give it a 4-3 to Dallas Fuel, I think.
All right.
That's about it.
Matt, are you on board with the Dallas? The safe money?
Yeah, I think Dallas is the safe pick here. I think we'll learn a lot more after those first two matches, but I still feel really confident in terms of Dallas's ability to adjust. I mean, this is a team that we've talked about them not being able to play optimally so much, but it doesn't really seem to matter. Like they're always seeming to come up with an answer, which is funny because we memed on Rush in that interview at the beginning of the season saying just that, and they've done it. So until we see them really get punished for not being able to play or do certain things, I believe they're going to come up with answers.
Fair enough. I summarized this bracket as well by saying that I do actually think any of the top three teams could win. Like we knocked Shanghai out in our bracket in the low bracket final. I think they could still win. I think it's very possible that they could come up with an answer in this week to be able to beat the zombie comp when it comes to control, and they can play really well defensively, and they end up bullying out the rest of the teams, make it to a final, get a win. I think the only team that doesn't have a shot is New York. Is that how the rest of you are thinking, or is there some different tier differences in your heads?
You mean you work? I mean, this is gonna sound crazy. Like, Shanghai loses to Dallas in like a 3-0 fashion. Could New York upset Shanghai in that first round of losers?
No.
Maybe.
I don't see that happening.
I don't see it happen either, but like that would be the only way they would ever. I mean, that'd be the only way they would do something like that, right?
Okay.
But I still think there's a very, very, very good chance that New York goes 0-2.
Okay.
Also, this is we haven't talked about it a ton, but this would be the halfway point of the season where typically we have like clear cut like MVP candidates. It seems like it's a little bit more open this year.
Yeah.
I think you probably would still say Fearless.
Yeah,
but even
Probably.
it's not as clear as it was after the Melee though.
Yeah. I mean, it
Definitely
might become more clear at the end of this, because if they manage to win again, then you got to pick somebody from Dallas.
I mean,
Almost
Pelican
certainly.
is Pelican a runaway for like Rookie of the Year potentially?
I think
Shy
Pelican's
as well.
looking. I mean, yeah, I
Nisha.
think Shy as well. Nisha, true. Nisha. I mean, at one point you could have said Gaga for Chengdu. That was my prediction for Rookie of the Year, but
Yeah.
it has not been coming true
Yeah.
so far. I think with how they're playing.
Yeah. I think
So,
Piggy
yeah, I don't
as
know,
well
so-
has an outside shot. He's 7-1 right now. The team's doing incredibly well. He's been a mainstay in that roster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we can do
It's
a
open.
recap of those kind of topics once we get to the middle of the season, because we'll have a week break after the June Joust, right? I think we have a week break after all the stages. So we have a week there to just kind of take stock of the entire season and take a look at everybody's standings, see where they're at, what the second half of the season looks like, see what time at what point some of our winless teams will get their first W on the board, along with other stuff like that. So we can do a bit of a blockbuster segment then.
Yeah.
But as for now, it is time for the most important segment.
Oh yeah.
Do we want to do power rankings? I don't mind doing them, but I feel like it is odd to do them now because I don't know.
I don't think we need to do them now.
No,
You wanna do 'em?
personally, I'm boomed.
It's up
I'd
to
rather
you.
do it next week.
I think
Well, let's do it next
I think
week.
we do them next week after the June Joust, because then we can also
Halfway
do
point.
full global power rankings, and we can try and do it like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, the people love when we do those.
They
The
do.
people
They
mold
do.
every time. All right, it's time for the most important segment of the week, though. It is Bren's Player of the Week, presented by T-Mobile. My Bren's Player of the Week from Bren, presented by T-Mobile this week, is, I think, going to be a fairly uncontroversial pick.
Oh,
He came out,
Okay.
he slapped, he's looking good. If the meta continues in his favor for the rest of the year, he could be in the running for Rookie of the Year. He could even be an outside shot for MVP. If the meta continues this way, I'm giving it to the bird person himself. It's Pelican. Pelican is Bren's
Nice.
Player of the Week, presented by T-Mobile. I don't even think...
Love it.
I mean, was there anyone else that you guys would consider candidates? I feel like Pelican just came out and whapped it this week.
yeah. He was fucking.
I honestly
that
cannot
guy
think
was-
of another person.
He was
joke.
dominating. We sacrificed Seagull so we could get Pelican.
Seagull's come back to streaming, hasn't he? I think he just tweeted
Yeah,
this
thank
week.
God.
He says he's gonna come back. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been looking for people to watch. I miss Seagull.
Yeah,
Some
that's
of the
fun.
people on Twitch are boring. I mean, thank God.
Hey man, there's some good
What?
Overwatch streamers out there. There's a few of them. There's plenty.
I doubt.
I mean, I
Seagull will
watch
be
other
playing
things. It
Overwatch.
wasn't
He'll
just
be doing variety.
Just
Yeah, is
limiting
Seagull going to be playing
yeah.
Overwatch?
True. Well, maybe Apex.
I watch just Custa and Johnny just watch Overwatch games I've already watched. It's I think Pelican though, it's a really good story for Atlanta, and I think he has clearly been great on the Echo. But like you say, Josh, like what happens if we move away from this, right? What on live? I don't know if did Echo get any actual adjustments to her kit? Just the ultimate charge rate, right?
I think it was just the ult.
I believe Moira
she's
got
already-
some changes.
She's already
but-
playing with a nerf right now, compared to
Right.
how she was previously, where if you come out of her duplicate, she has 100 HP max, or rather,
I think now it's
minimum.
the 17% alt charge increase, so that'll be pretty significant. Moira gets that as well. I still think though Echo is so strong. Like she's able to fly. The damage. I mean the fucking damage.
Sorry, that
like-
is so fucking funny. You're like, she's so strong, she can fly.
Yeah, she can fucking fly.
Yeah, so
the
can
focusing
Farah.
beam. The focusing beam, I think, is like as controversial as like when they introduced Sigma's Flux that does 50% HP. Like focusing beam just nukes down tanks, and even a lot of the times tanks can't even react because the Echo's directly above their head shooting the beam down. They're dead instantly. I think Echo will still remain strong throughout the year unless there's like, nerfs to her sticky bombs or damage or something along those lines.
Some people were arguing on Twitter that it's just because of the hero pool. There's no counters.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, last stage, Echo popped up, but was definitely not the focus.
Yeah.
So I think it is 100. I think currently it is 100% the hero pool is why she is the focus of the meta. Will she probably still be good? Yeah. Do I think she's like a better Pharah? Yeah. But I just think that she's never going to be the focus unless without like hero pools, essentially, because like it requires the fact that like, well, you can play like this rush comp with Echo. Well, imagine if you were able to play like Bab Zin, or if you were able to play like Mei Ryan, right? There's so many options that you could have just like shattered this comp with, but because we don't have any of the counter comps, it's impossible to do so.
Also, I think that she definitely did pop her head in and out of the meta in the main melee, though, right? And I think that
she did.
It's something that we could definitely see enough over the course of the season that Pelican could make an impact to be Rookie of the Year. I think it's quite unlikely that he becomes MVP. Echo, I think, would have to dominate the meta for that to be the case, and he'd have to continue being the best. But Rookie of the Year is pretty wide open. It really is, like, between him, Shy, and then you've got outside shots of, like, Nisha, Piggy, stuff like that. It's a wide open race there for somebody like him. And I love that this year, Rookie of the Year is not just a MVP in disguise. It actually does mean these are the rookies that did well. In all of the other years, it was just the best players in the league were rookies. Like every year, season 1, 2, and 3, the best players in the league were rookies. It's only really Fleda winning MVP, but that was almost Alarm. Like Alarm could definitely have won that too.
Yeah. Also, we do have the Widowmaker 1v1 this weekend. I just saw the leagues tweeted out that Pine will actually be competing in it.
Okay.
So we'll see Pine and the Widow 1v1.
All right.
Okay.
Why not? Why not, huh? That is...
Could you imagine he just comes out, just dunks on everybody, wins the Widow 1v1, and then you're just like, oh...
I mean, there's been a lot of competition that's gone now. I mean, with Diem being out of the field, right?
He's like, the back-to-back champion.
Yeah, there's a lot of competition gone.
Yeah.
So,
Diem and
but he has some new ones, like Onigod, who I think is actually could be like a fairly decent opponent for the Widow 1v1. So
wait, are they playing on ping?
I don't know. Are they playing on ping, or is it only an 8-pack?
I believe the Widow 1v1 will be between Widows on the final 4 teams.
Oh,
okay.
If I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, in Dallas, I think you obviously.
I mean, they have Kai.
Yeah,
Kai you can see Pine, Kai, Fleta, and Flora.
Yeah.
Or Guangboon.
Well, I mean, Lib could play instead of Fleta as well. I don't know which one of them would even play there, but Guangboon
still 4
as well.
Pretty good Widowmakers,
Dude,
so.
Guangboon might just come out and slap his big old Widow dick on the table.
He'd be the only one from New York to win that weekend. He collects his Widow 1v1 money and then just does like
he is the DM of NYXL. It's his duty. All right, very good. That does it for this episode. That was episode 90 as well. We are getting so close to the big 100. I think 100 is going to be pretty much aligned with the end of the season. We're about 10 weeks away from the end, aren't we?
What should we do for episode 100?
Let's sacrifice Bren to the gods. No?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, it depends on how we do it, though.
All right.
How many? Yeah.
We could all fly out to Hawaii. We could do a live episode from Hawaii.
I'd be totally down. I would love. I haven't been to Hawaii yet. I would love to go to Hawaii.
Yeah, I've never been.
So
we could all do a giant hot tub stream. 4 of us in the hot tub with melon bikinis.
Maybe I'll come out to you guys for episode 100, or why don't you just come out to us?
What? Yeah, let's port the studio to LA. That seems like a much better idea.
The majority of us are here.
That's not true. Avast is in Dallas.
Technically, I'm in Texas.
Yeah, but he's far away, though. That's pretty far.
Also,
I'm closer to him than I am to you.
Kurt is a more integral part of the show than you are, so he surely counts for a larger vote.
We can't do anything without Kurt.
Where people
are. Yeah, keep being members so we can keep Kurt.
Oh, that's a good point, actually. I told people last episode that we would shout them out. So, kind of didn't prep for this part of it, did we?
Good thing I brought it up.
Yeah, it is a very good thing that you brought it up, because
there's nothing more Sideshow than making promises to his fans and chat and then not following through.
I'm so tired of this guy.
I streamed for the first time in 16 days today, and people were like, the annual Sideshow stream. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
I think it's funny that
they... Josh is just back for his money grab, you know?
I love that they do that to Josh when I'm the one that actually disappears. I pull the Clint Stevens all the time.
Kurt is trying to interject with some names of members, though, I think.
So, I believe you announced it on the Valorant podcast, Plat Chat Valorant, about announcing the members. Yes, because last week we didn't have memberships enabled.
We didn't have memberships enabled. Yeah.
So I was filling out the process and got approved. We got approved like a couple days ago, and we have one member.
We have one member.
We have one member?
Timothy Poe.
Yo, Timothy
joined 0 days ago. So apparently they joined today. Thank you, Timothy.
Today. Yo, Timmy.
I think Kurt.
The first. That's perfect though. That the first member is a little Timmy. That is just perfect.
It is pretty good. I think the way we should do this from now on is Kurt should just read the member's name, and then we just say "Welcome to member" after.
Okay. Yeah. And what happens if we have like 100 members?
We do it really
Kurt's
fast.
He's got a mic.
Y'all got
if
phones,
you just do like a scrolling text thing,
y'all got phones.
When we do it from there.
Okay, well, we'll figure it out. Now, here's a PSA then. We do have memberships enabled on our channel. We would really appreciate it if you feel interested, if you've enjoyed our content enough to become a member of the channel. We would appreciate that. If you're unfamiliar with what that is because you're a little Twitch frog, basically it's the same as being a Twitch sub. It gets a slightly higher percentage of the pie goes to us instead of going to the website. But overall, it's just a way of being somebody who is supporting the channel without us having to use an outside website like Patreon or something like that. We'll probably create stuff that incentivizes people to become members of the channel, but for now it's essentially just
really ominous. Yeah, we'll get you guys some stuff. Yeah, don't worry about it.
We'll do shit. We'll do shit in the future, but we've just enabled it, and it's just a way of people showing their appreciation at the moment. We do very much appreciate people who've become members, but it's not in any way obliged. All of the content that you see here, the regular podcasts and stuff like that, will continue to be just freely available for everybody while we produce
the longest shit
amounts of podcasts.
If you want to be a member, be a member. If you don't want to be a member, don't be a member. Still watch the show. We love you.
There you go. There you go. We appreciate it all.
There we go.
And that's it. Hit the subscribe button. Leave a comment below whether you preferred Lynx or Dalton's Pizza, and we'll see you next time. Bye.